Chapter 2987. In a flash, Chun Zhao appeared before deity. The god was covered in golden armor and held a sword. He carried a horn on his back. The god's eyes were golden. Even though it was all gray, he could still accurately grasp Chun Zhao's movements. Clang! When Chun Zhao raised his right fist, the golden-armored god had already slashed at him with his sword. The sword landed on Chun Zhao's wrist. Then, an extremely powerful force exploded. Chun Zhao was forced back 2 steps. The golden-armored god didn't follow up with another attack. Instead, he pulled down the horn and blew it. Whoosh! Chun Zhao felt a powerful wave of divine power spread out from the god's body. However, he didn't feel any damage from the horn. Chun Zhao was still on his guard. But the horn indeed didn't have any damage. Suddenly, a wave of darkness attacked Chun Zhao from behind. It was the same as Chun Zhao's dark serum. It was like liquid, but extremely sticky. It enveloped Chun Zhao's head. Chun Zhao didn't dodge. He let the darkness envelop him. The next moment, a painful howl came from the dark liquid. The dark liquid tried to break free from Chun Zhao's body. But now, it was entangled with Chun Zhao's dark lava. He couldn't tell who was whose. Chun Zhao's inner world suddenly pulled, and a soul was dragged out of the dark liquid. Chun Zhao sent the soul into his sea of consciousness. Instantly, light and darkness intertwined in the sky. It seemed that this god had effected some kind of rule. In just a few breaths, the soul that Chun Zhao had dragged into his sea of consciousness was completely disintegrated. The intertwining darkness in the sky also disappeared. No, hotter! Balder roared and charged over. Chun Zhao was stunned. Hotter? After meeting Balder, he'd checked Balder's household register. The information he could find on the internet was basically all myths and legends. One of them was that Balder had a brother, the god of darkness, Hotter. In the legends, Balder had been killed by an arrowhead made by Hotter with mistletoe. But the reality was that Balder hadn't died and was in a stable relationship with his brother. At least when Chun Zhao killed Hotter, Balder had looked very angry. Chun Zhao looked at Balder, who was charging at him, and gave him a cold stab. He also wanted to drag Balder's divine soul into the sea of consciousness. Unfortunately, Balder's physical body was intact, and with the strength of his spirit, it was impossible for him to escape. Chun Zhao could not move it no matter how hard he tried. Instead, it was Hotter who had sought his own death. He didn't have his own body, and jumping on Chun Zhao was suicide. As a result, his divine soul was heavily injured. That was why Chun Zhao could easily drag Hotter's soul into his sea of consciousness. Chun Zhao flung Balder away. It wasn't his cup of tea. He couldn't bite it. It was more practical to look for those divine souls without physical bodies. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck him. Chun Zhao shivered. In a hazy steam, he could vaguely see a strong man holding a small iron hammer that did not match his body size. The lightning bolt had come from the hammer. Lightning, hammer, brawny man. Since that was the case, the newcomer could basically be concluded. In Norse mythology, he was the most famous god besides Odin. Balder's brother, the god of thunder. Amidst the steam, the god of thunder raised his hammer high. A bolt of lightning crashed down. Chun Zhao didn't move. However, the surrounding steam was dispersed quite a bit. Chun Zhao also saw the god of thunder's face clearly. It was obviously different from his image and face in the movies. He had a big beard and strong limbs. He was covered in silver scale armor, and his shoulders were wrapped in bear skin. Lightning surrounded him. Of course, his mouth of rotten teeth also left a deep impression. Everything was easy to say without opening his mouth. He had a strong aura, sharp eyes, and sharp eyebrows. But when he opened his mouth, the rotten teeth alone were enough to destroy Chun Zhao's worldview, not to mention the smell of alcohol. I'm a god. Can't I pay attention to my image and fix my appearance? By the way, you're the god of thunder, right? The god of thunder nodded. You've heard of me. You're more famous than your old man. Didn't you die together with a giant mortal snake, Yegad? In the legends, the god of thunder and the giant mortal snake, Yegad, were made to be mortal enemies. In the end, The god of thunder and Yegad fulfilled their wish to die on the same day of the same year, month, and day. I died, but he didn't, the god of thunder replied. If you're dead, then go to where the dead should go. This isn't where you belong. The god of thunder didn't answer Chun Zhao. Instead, he raised his hammer high. Instantly, tens of thousands of lightning boomed. The entire sky was covered in lightning. The god of thunder used Mjolnir to guide the lightning in the sky. This guy was a true expert at playing with lightning. Before the god of thunder, Chun Zhao was like an elementary school student. Boom, 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 lightning baptism. Chun Zhao was drowned in lightning. Chun Zhao didn't move. His expertise in the lightning element wasn't in release. It was in resistance. This was Chun Zhao's greatest strength. He already had the ability of the lightning element. Plus, he had the constitution of a battery. He was also the strongest enhancement element in history. As a result, Chun Zhao's lightning resistance reached an unprecedented level. Chun Zhao even treated the lightning storm as the warm sun in March. But not long after, Chun Zhao's battery was full. Chun Zhao dashed toward the god of thunder. The god of thunder didn't have the authority of the god of war, but he was the god of war of the Asgard race. Seeing Chun Zhao approach, the god of thunder didn't hesitate at all. He swung Mjolnir at Chun Zhao's head. This was experience and instinct. Mjolnir hit Chun Zhao's temple. Even Chun Zhao felt like his head was going to explode. But Chun Zhao's punch shattered the god of thunder's head. The god of thunder's soul fused into the ground. But just then, Chun Zhao grabbed the god of thunder's soul. He pulled it into the sea of consciousness. Instantly, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. It went straight for Chun Zhao's forehead. Boom! Chun Zhao took a step back. In that instant, Chun Zhao felt the rules of the world. The god of thunder's soul fragment wasn't absorbed by the sea of consciousness. Instead, it fused into Chun Zhao's soul. Fated enemy? Chun Zhao could devour the soul of his fated enemy. Chun Zhao clenched his fists. On his palms, there was still lightning coursing through his body. He looked at the hammer that had fallen to the ground. Chun Zhao reached out to grab it. He didn't pick it up? Damn, this hammer isn't so heavy that I can't even lift it. Right? Chun Zhao tried again, but he still couldn't move it. I don't believe it. Chun Zhao's body turned black, then gold, and finally red. Primordial regression technique, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, until Chun Zhao activated level 5. The hammer was finally moved, but it wasn't picked up. God King of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2988. Chun Zhao tore the handle of the hammer from the body. The next moment, the hammer seemed to have lost its spirit. Chun Zhao could clearly feel that something was missing from the hammer. Chun Zhao walked up and picked up the hammer, weighing it. It didn't have that almost infinite weight anymore. Chun Zhao was a bit disappointed. Damn, did he really have to become a king to pick up the hammer? Although he'd broken the hammer, Chun Zhao still put away the hammer and handle. It was a divine artifact, after all, and one of the few that could resist his power that was close to his limit. He wanted to see if Ruan Faxi could fix his instincts. After all, he had this foundation. It couldn't be that bad. If not, he could give it to the kids at home to play with. In Thor's soul fragment, Chun Zhao found more information on how to control lightning. More accurately, it wasn't a skill. It was an instinct. Thor was a natural god. His parents were both gods, and they were both top-notch gods. Thor's authority seemed to be fusing into Chun Zhao's body. Chun Zhao couldn't help but think of the 23rd Blood Mary. Am I going to turn into a deity too? But things didn't develop as Chun Zhao feared. Chun Zhao could clearly feel the existence of the authority. But his power didn't turn into divine power. Chun Zhao lifted his arm and pointed his palm at the sky. A bolt of lightning fell from the sky. However, the lightning didn't land on Chun Zhao. Instead, it gathered in his palm. Chun Zhao shook his head. This authority was very strong. It was even stronger than most Shang-Qing cultivators. But it was still too weak for Chun Zhao right now. Its destructive and destructive power were far inferior to the dark red neutron star. Of course, he could use a big move, but it would take too long to charge. The lightning couldn't be released through his own power. It came from a world. Chun Zhao now had a deeper understanding of the god's authority. The world was a bank, and the authority was a credit card. How much power one borrowed depended on one's strength. Most of the time, it was as much as one borrowed. But the disadvantage was that it couldn't be like Chun Zhao's own flame chi, which he could create himself. It depended on how much he needed. If a god's authority wanted to borrow more power, he had to pay more divine power. Chun Zhao was a bit disappointed. The god of thunder's authority was cool, but it was useless. To Chun Zhao, their destructive and lethality were extremely weak. The only useful thing was that his lightning resistance had increased. But there was no one in the world who could hurt him with lightning. Boom, boom. At this moment, a loud sound came from afar. Chun Zhao looked back and saw Zhang Tianyi blocking the rainbow light from Odin's spear. Chun Zhao, where did you hide it? Quickly come and help. This old man can't hold on much longer. Chun Zhao threw the accumulated lightning balls at Odin, using his son's skill to hit his father. However, this thunderball was also useless. When the thunderball exploded, a large part of Odin's body was damaged, but it quickly recovered. Chun Zhao took out the black trident and charged at Odin like a bolt of lightning. Odin also noticed Chun Zhao. Its huge body turned into a beam of light and shot toward Chun Zhao. The lightning and the rainbow collided in the air. Unexpectedly, there was no earth-shattering impact. Chun Zhao stood in the air, one hand holding the black trident and the other holding Odin's shrunken spear. At the same time, Chun Zhao's aura kept changing. Odin's aura kept circling around Chun Zhao's body. At the same time, golden runes kept bursting out of Chun Zhao's body. These golden runes looked like Taoist talisman characters. Right now, in Chun Zhao's sea of consciousness, Odin was holding his left abdomen. He looked around in fear. The sea of consciousness was a world of flames. Above the flames, countless golden runes circled. His soul was greatly restricted here. He had also lost all connection with Asgard. Not only that, when he charged into Chun Zhao's body, Chun Zhao's black trident caused a destructive force in his abdomen. As a result, Odin's soul was very weak. The destructive force still couldn't be dispelled. This wasn't his plan. His original plan was for Balder to cripple Chun Zhao and then extract his soul. He would be able to occupy this extremely powerful body without any resistance. That's right. The original plan of him, Balder, and the remaining gods was to occupy Chun Zhao's body. Odin only had a soul left. But Balder didn't lie to Chun Zhao about one thing. Odin was the soul of Asgard. As long as Asgard wasn't destroyed, his soul wouldn't completely disperse. But he would forever be bound to Asgard. In Asgard, he was still the high and mighty king of the gods. But now Asgard was in ruins. The gods were either dead or injured. Odin couldn't do anything. That was why he ordered Balder to find a suitable body for him. He needed to regain his freedom, so he had to have a body that could accommodate his divine soul. This wasn't easy. Even the body of a god couldn't do it. Odin was too strong. Balder had been active in the human world for decades. He hadn't found a suitable vessel until he met Chun Zhao. Then Balder lured Chun Zhao here. But Chun Zhao had brought companions. No, after Balder's attempt to trap Chun Zhao and the other two with the void space failed, the plan had gone out of control. Balder had lured Chun Zhao and the other two here as a last effort. He wanted to use force. Bifla, Zhang Tianyi suddenly yelled. You handle it alone. Leave it to me. Bifla nodded calmly. Zhang Tianyi quickly formed a hand seal. God, come here. Whoosh! A figure descended from the sky. Blood Mary 23 was here. This was also a part of the plan. The 23rd Blood Mary was an important part of it. She would only appear at the crucial moment. Plus, Zhang Tianyi had used the God-inviting spell to invite her here. The 23rd generation Blood Mary looked around. She immediately sensed the presence of hundreds of gods. What's going on? I don't have time to talk. Move now, Zhang Tianyi urged. But there are so many gods around. Mary 23 hesitated. We'll hold them. Just move. Before Bifla and I lie down, no one can hurt you. Hurry. Blood Mary 23 had been invited here by Zhang Tianyi's God-inviting spell. But every minute and second she was here consumed a large amount of Zhang Tianyi's power. The more she spoke, the more tired Zhang Tianyi became. Chapter 2989. The 23rd generation Blood Mary didn't beat around the bush. He rushed straight down to the ground of Asgard. Stop her! Vader felt like his head was about to explode. At that moment, he realized that he wasn't the only one plotting against Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao was also plotting against them. Vader looked up at Chen Zhao in the sky. Odin, the king of the gods, did not take over Chen Zhao's body. At least, he hadn't succeeded yet. Vader could only hope that Odin would succeed. But he knew very well that Odin's soul was as broken as Asgard. Not to mention that he was stronger than he was at his peak. His soul state might not even be much stronger than his own. With such a powerful soul, he wanted to snatch Chen Zhao's body. Although the body-strengthening system did not refine the soul, that was only true for ordinary cultivators. At Chen Zhao's level, even if he didn't practice, he was still terrifyingly powerful. Thus, Odin's chances of victory were less than 50%. This was Vader's assessment. In fact, Vader had overestimated Odin. Or rather, he had underestimated Chen Zhao's group. Zhang Tianyi had placed a godly seal on Chen Zhao's body. It was specifically used to strengthen Chen Zhao's soul and suppress Odin's soul. At the same time, Odin rushed into Chen Zhao's body. Chen Zhao was already prepared. He used the black trident to injure Odin's soul. The black trident dealt more than just physical damage. It didn't care if you had a physical body or a spiritual body. If you dared to touch it, you would experience a different kind of pleasure. Odin was in a rush to reincarnate. He didn't care what weapon Chen Zhao had and just charged over. However, Odin was quite lucky that the black trident did not pierce through his body. However, this was also his greatest misfortune. He had just developed a new skill not long ago. He dragged the spirit into his sea of consciousness. As for why he was being dragged in, to put it simply, it was used as fertilizer. Odin had not yet been reduced to fertilizer, but it wouldn't take long. Odin tried to leave Chen Zhao's consciousness, but would Chen Zhao let him go? In Chen Zhao's consciousness, the extreme heat caused Odin to grow weaker and weaker. The wound on the spirit body's abdomen was still worsening. The destructive power continued to wreak havoc in his spirit body. More importantly, the flame chi transformed into Chen Zhao's appearance. He punched and kicked Odin. Chen Zhao didn't hold back. If this guy didn't die, he would be in danger. After all, this guy had too many titles. King of Gods, King of Magic, Lord of the Nine Realms. Chen Zhao didn't know how many tricks this guy had up his sleeve. Chen Zhao didn't dare to be arrogant in front of him. He was afraid that if he spoke too much, the other party would seize the opportunity. So, Chen Zhao attacked right away. First, he would beat his opponent until he couldn't take care of himself. It had to be said that even if Odin's soul wasn't at its peak, it was still shockingly strong. If he hadn't come in himself, Chen Zhao probably couldn't even drag him in, whether it was the god of darkness Hodder or the god of thunder Thor. Chen Zhao dragged the divine soul in. Basically, it didn't even last a minute. His divine soul had already been roasted to the point where both his body and soul had been destroyed. But even though Odin was in a terrible state, however, he was still able to resist the roasting of the furnace in his sea of consciousness. Moreover, countless clones from Chen Zhao's consciousness surrounded Odin. Surprisingly, he hadn't been shattered yet. "Human, you can't destroy my soul." Odin roared hysterically. "Although I don't know how you seal my perception with Asgard, I still coexist with Asgard. As long as Asgard exists, then I am immortal. It's okay. My power is endless here too. You can't kill me, and I'm not tired either. We have all the time we need." Blood Mary stood still. Her divine power started seeping into the land of Asgard. She had made her choice. She chose the cultivation method of the Olympian god's divine kingdom. As for the fragments of the divine kingdom, there were many of them here. Asgard was Odin's divine kingdom. Therefore, Asgard was the best choice for Blood Mary to build her divine kingdom. Now, Odin had lost control of Asgard. It was the best time for Blood Mary. Several deities charged toward Blood Mary, the 23rd generation. Blood Mary didn't move. Zhang Tianyi maintained the god-inviting seal with one hand and waved with the other. Countless rays of golden light shot over, instantly riddling the few gods with thousands of holes. Whoosh! A wave of flames rolled past Bifla. The bodies of the gods were melted by the flames. Their bodies disappeared, and their souls were exposed too. But this time, their bodies weren't reconstructed. They could keep reconstructing their bodies before because they were protected by the world. It was because they were protected by the world. They could be reborn again and again in Asgard. But now, Odin was trapped in Chun Zhao's consciousness. They also lost Asgard's protection. As time went by, Zhang Tianyi and Bifla no longer felt the hostility of this world. Their magic power could finally recover. The 23rd Blood Mary watched as a few divine souls were exposed in front of her. She used her divine power to seep into the land of Asgard and reached out to grab the souls. In the blink of an eye, 3 of the 5 souls were caught by Blood Mary. Zhang Tianyi didn't stay idle either. He also grabbed one. Bifla caught one too. Blood Mary, hurry up. You still have time to steal from us? Zhang Tianyi yelled. I'm using my magic power to maintain you here. If Zhang Tianyi had used the god-summoning spell on an ordinary deity, he could invite them until the end of time. However, he had invited the 23rd Blood Mary to descend in her true form. It consumed so much magic power that even someone as powerful as Zhang Tianyi couldn't maintain it for long. This was a rare spoil of war. A god's soul. One might not even encounter one in a few hundred years. Now, they were everywhere. Of course, the prerequisite was that they had to break the bodies of these gods first. Just then, the golden-armored god who'd fought before swung his sword and charged over. Heimdall! Blood Mary's eyes narrowed. If Odin was the king of the Asgard gods, then Heimdall was the guardian god of the Asgard gods. He was the commander of the Asgard gods. In the legends, his status was even higher than that of the god of thunder. Bifla immediately attacked Heimdall. Bifla waved its hand, and a crazy wave of fire drowned Heimdall. But the next moment, Heimdall still charged out of the flames and slashed at Bifla, who was standing in front of Blood Mary. Bifla didn't dodge Heimdall. Just as Heimdall's sword was about to land on Bifla's head, it suddenly stopped. Burning red chains shot out from the flames. They wrapped around Heimdall's weapon, limbs, body, and neck. Chapter 2990. Heimdall struggled hard, trying to break the chain with the sword in his hand. But it was the sword in his hand that broke first. To be precise, it was melted. Heimdall himself was a little stunned. His weapon was made by dwarves. It was a real artifact. Why was it melted? And it wasn't directly roasted by flames. It was just tied up by red-hot chains. It was actually melted. Your flame power is better than Loki's. The Loki that Heimdall mentioned was not the second princess in a movie. In Norse mythology, Loki was not only the god of mischief and lies, but also the god of fire. Of course, he was also the opposite of the Norse gods, the biggest villain. Demon wolf Fenrir, earth serpent Jormungandr, and goddess of death Hela were all his children. But you live up to the name of the gods, Bifla said indifferently. Of course, Heimdall wasn't in his best state. But even in his best state, Heimdall might not be able to defeat Bifla. The crimson chains had already deeply cut into Heimdall's skin. In the next instant, Heimdall's body collapsed violently, and Heimdall's divine soul was dragged out by the crimson chains. Bifla collected Heimdall's divine soul. Hundreds of crimson chains danced wildly in the air. They forced back the gods who tried to get close. Bifla was in charge of the outer ring of the battlefield. Zhang Tianyi was in charge of the inner ring. If there was a fish that slipped through the net and broke through Bifla's defense, Zhang Tianyi was responsible for cleaning up. But at this time, Zhang Tianyi was responsible for maintaining the mana consumption of the 23rd generation Blood Mary. He also had to bear the siege of those who slipped through the net. The pressure was not small. Fortunately, Zhang Tianyi's ability was really not weak. He had the title of the number 1 person in the supernatural world for decades, and it was really not an undeserved reputation. He cast spells one by one. They didn't seem to be special, but he could always restrain the gods that came forward just right. But he felt a little overwhelmed now. Bifla could at least devote himself to the task. He couldn't, and he had to suffer double the pain. He maintained the Madrah with one hand and the mana consumption of the Invocation of God. This round trip was equivalent to him restricting 70% of his combat strength. However, even with only 30% of his combat power, he was still able to defend impenetrably. Blood Mary, how much longer do you need? Zhang Tianyi could not help but curse. There's nothing I can do. Although Asgard is broken, it's still relatively intact. Mary, the 23rd generation blood, was also very anxious. She was already using all her strength. Her divine power permeated the depths of Asgard. He only managed to dig out a small fragment of the divine kingdom, less than 1,000th of Asgard as a whole. This bit of God Kingdom fragment was not enough for her to build a complete God Kingdom. Then let me shatter it. What do you think? Chen Zhao's voice rang out. Everyone looked up at Chen Zhao. Zhang Tianyi was overjoyed. Chen Zhao, it's done? Chen Zhao grinned. Odin's soul is quite delicious. Chen Zhao had really eaten Odin's soul. However, it wasn't devouring, it was simply absorbing. Odin and Chen Zhao weren't fated enemies. Therefore, Chen Zhao couldn't absorb Odin's soul fragment. However, he could still absorb it as soul force. There was a clear difference between absorbing and devouring. Just like Thunder God Thor, he and Chen Zhao were fated enemies. Chen Zhao could devour his soul fragment. To a certain extent, he could obtain some of Thunder God's abilities. Chen Zhao was lucky to obtain Thunder God's authority. However, it was useless. Odin, on the other hand, was a pure dessert. Not bad. Just then, the world seemed to have lost its color. Only black and white were left. Cracks appeared in the sky, and the ground shook violently. Even the gravitational force had problems. The broken walls and rubble began to lose their weight. Mary, the 23rd generation blood, was shocked. She could clearly feel that Asgard's divine kingdom had become weaker. Chen Zhao, shatter Asgard. Mary didn't care about the consequences. In her eyes, Asgard was also an extremely delicious delicacy. As Odin's divine kingdom, the size of Asgard's divine kingdom was probably larger than the divine kingdoms of dozens of gods combined. How many fragments could he extract? It would probably be enough for him to use until the end of time. Because the Olympians had a special divine kingdom, they needed fragments to build their own divine kingdom. If the divine kingdom was damaged, they needed fragments to repair it. So, they needed to fight to nurture themselves. They had to continuously launch divine wars to obtain fragments. If they won a divine war, they could survive for a few thousand years. That was the harvest of a Protoss race. If they could take all the fragments of Asgard's divine kingdom for their own use, it would probably be half as much as the Asgard gods. Make sure to protect yourselves. If I get involved, I won't care. Chen Zhao suddenly charged into the sky. Mary, the 23rd generation blood, wasn't in a hurry to extract the fragments of Asgard's divine kingdom. Since Chen Zhao had said it so clearly, he definitely wouldn't do it without reason. Zhang Tianyi and Bifla also flew into the sky and set up a defensive spell on themselves. A meteor fell and collided with Asgard. Instantly, a dazzling light billions of times brighter than the sun illuminated everything. Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and Mary were all speechless. The majestic Asgard disappeared. The entire land disappeared. Only a few extremely small fragments were left. After the first round of impact, Mary charged into the sea of fire without a care. Asgard had been completely destroyed by Chen Zhao. The fragments of Asgard's divine kingdom were scattered everywhere too. No, not just the fragments of Asgard's divine kingdom. The entire space was filled with the fragments of countless deities' divine kingdom. All the deities had disappeared. That attack didn't just destroy Asgard. It also shattered the souls of the deities entangled with Asgard. They were Asgard's deities, but they were also bound by Asgard. Even after death, their souls were still bound by Asgard. But this binding wasn't all bad. At least, their souls were also protected by Asgard. But now, Asgard was completely destroyed by Chen Zhao. For the deities, this didn't mean freedom. Instead, it meant that they had lost their last foundation. Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Enchanting fought for those souls. Some were well preserved, while others only had fragments left. However, most of the souls had already been reduced to ashes along with Asgard. Mary, the 23rd generation blood, was desperately collecting the fragments. Chapter 2991. Suddenly, Chun Zhao saw a figure. It was the god of light, Balder. He might be the only god that hadn't died. He was charging in one direction. With a flash, Chun Zhao appeared before Balder. Balder looked at Chun Zhao anxiously with an anxious expression. Mr. Chun, you've already destroyed Asgard. Even Odin and the gods died in your hands. What else do you want? I must eliminate all evil and eliminate the roots. Have you forgotten? You can't kill me, Balder said anxiously. Balder said anxiously, so please don't waste each other's time. As for hatred, I was only controlled by Odin. Whether you believe it or not, this is the truth. Now that he has completely disappeared, our grievances should be written off. Chun Zhao shook his head. That's not how you calculate things. Just then, Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary also stopped plundering. They surrounded Balder from all sides. Vader did not intend to fight against the 4 vicious men opposite him. He couldn't beat them. Back then, not including 23rd Blood Mary, Balder couldn't beat them. Now that there was 23rd Blood Mary, he couldn't beat them even more. God of Light, I'm curious. Since you're undying, why were you still threatened by Odin? Balder didn't speak. 23rd Blood Mary's lips curved. Is it because you and all the gods of the Asgard race have your souls attached to Asgard? 23rd Blood Mary stared at Balder. Balder still faced 23rd Blood Mary's question in silence. Do you think silence can help you escape? I've said that I didn't mean to be enemies with you. Even if you destroyed Asgard and killed Odin, it doesn't even count as hatred for me. Balder looked at 23rd Blood Mary. Compared to the other 3, Balder was more afraid of 23rd Blood Mary, because she knew him the best. Perhaps Odin's plan was seen through by the 23rd Blood Mary. That was why they'd accurately grasped the loophole in their plan. The truth was just as Balder had guessed. 23rd Blood Mary had become a god herself. Therefore, she knew the gods the best out of the 4, while the other 3 only suspected that Baldur had ulterior motives. 23rd Blood Mary guessed the truth. Actually, this logic was very simple. What did Odin want the most after losing his physical body? Of course, it was to find a physical body to serve as a vessel for Odin's soul. As long as he understood this principle, it was no wonder that Balder had been looking for Chun Zhao's cooperation. Chun Zhao's body was definitely the best vessel for Odin's soul. Of course, they could not rule out the possibility that Balder had ulterior motives. He wanted Odin and Chun Zhao to injure each other so that he could reap the benefits. This possibility was not small either. After all, Balder had never wanted Chun Zhao to find other helpers. The biggest reason was that if he found other helpers, the chances of him reaping the benefits would be much smaller. What do you do to me? Balder looked at the 4 and said, You've sealed me for hundreds or even thousands of years. By then, you'll all be corrupted by time, but I'll still be a god. Your descendants might not be able to fight me then. I just want freedom, true freedom. I don't plan on ruling the world, or destroying the world, or restoring the Aesir race to its former glory. I just want to live more freely. Now, my dream has come true, so I have no reason to be your enemy. I can even guarantee that I'll avoid you and the areas your forces cover in the human world. Mary, the 23rd generation Blood Mary, still looked at Balder with that evil smile. Are you looking for it? Blood Mary, the 23rd generation, took out a divine soul, an incomplete divine soul. When Balder saw the divine soul, his expression changed involuntarily. This was why Odin had controlled it. This was a part of his soul. Balder was lucky. Chun Zhao's ultimate move had destroyed Asgard, but it hadn't destroyed the fragment of his divine soul attached to Asgard. Of course, this was also related to his characteristics. Balder didn't just have an immortal body. He also had an immortal soul. Looking at 23rd Blood Mary, Balder tried his best to control his fear. It's useless, Balder said. My soul is also immortal. Didn't you try it before? 23rd Blood Mary grabbed Bader's remnant soul and sent a bit of power into it. Bader's expression was normal. With some mockery, he said, I told you, it's useless. Really? 23rd Blood Mary suddenly increased her power and sent a wave of cold air into the remnant soul. Bader's body trembled slightly, but he still gritted his teeth and persevered. By now, even Chun Zhao, Zhang Tianyi, and Bifla could see something. They didn't know if Bader's soul could really be immortal. But the remnant soul controlled by 23rd Blood Mary could definitely affect Bader. They had plenty of time to try. But for Bader, every second was a test worse than death. Fine, I admit that this remnant soul is a part of my soul. It represents my pain. Bader finally compromised. Back then, my mother, Frigg, not only gave me the blessing of immortality, but she also took away my pain. The part that carried the pain was hidden in Asgard, so I'm immortal and won't feel pain. But then everything changed. Dusk came, and the part of my soul that carried the pain became Odin's weakness to control me. You just want to find this remnant soul that carried the pain. I can trade with you with Odin's treasure, Bader said. Not me, us. They were all smart people. 23rd Blood Mary could obviously tell that Bader was trying to drive a wedge between them. There were too many precedents of people killing each other for their own benefits. Bader smiled. Fine, it was a slip of the tongue. I'll trade with you with Odin's treasure. Odin's treasure again? From start to finish, you've been using this as a bargaining chip, Chun Zhao said, bored. Don't you have any other trump cards? Bader was also helpless. Trump cards were also something that depended on the person. The 4 people he was facing had completely destroyed Asgard. His trump cards were almost useless against them. Apart from Odin's treasure, there was no other bargaining chip that was useful to them. Chapter 2992. You've tricked us so many times with Odin's treasury. Do you think we'll fall for it again? It's true this time, Bader said helplessly. No, you say that every time. True or false? Zhang Tianyi said. We never agreed to exchange your soul for Odin's treasury. Celestial Master Zhang, it's my remnant soul, not my complete soul, Bader corrected. Plus, only Blood Mary has the right to decide. No, what he said is what we all think. Blood Mary didn't fall for this. They were all on the same side and had already won a great victory. She wouldn't go against everyone on such a small matter. If you try to sow discord again, I'll let you have a taste of it first. Bader shrugged. There are countless treasures in Odin's treasury. From ancient times until 3,000 years ago, Odin's collection is unimaginable. Zhang Tianyi still shook his head. We have so many remnant souls. Some of them still have self-consciousness. We can get the information we need from them, not you, so you don't have a right to bargain with us. Bader's expression grew even worse. Back then, all the souls of the gods were attached to Asgard. They couldn't escape Odin's control at all. Thus, Odin didn't hide his treasury from the other gods at all. There were indeed many gods who knew where Odin's treasury was. Serve me for 1,000 years, Blood Mary said. During this time, you have to obey me absolutely. After that, I'll give you back your freedom. Impossible. What's the difference between that and a seal? Bader refused decisively. So there's nothing to talk about? 100 years, at most 100 years, Bader said. Blood Mary shook her head. 100 years is too short. Let's each take a step back, Chun Zhao said. 500 years. Bader's face darkened. This was each taking a step back? I refuse. The 4 stared at Bader mockingly. Do you have a right to refuse? Chun Zhao sneered. It's good enough that you didn't become my servant forever. You should feel lucky. Normal souls have pain thresholds. As an immortal god, do you have pain thresholds? I'll be happy to do some research. We are all very interested. The 4 of them spoke one after another. Bader's expression grew more and more unsightly. He was like a fish on the chopping block. This was his current situation. If he didn't give in, he would have to accept endless torture. And submission meant 500 years of slavery. For 100 years. If you refuse again, then there's no need to talk anymore. Bader sighed and finally gave in. 400 years is fine, but I hope to get the treatment and respect I deserve. In addition, I need a strong contract. 23rd generation nodded, sure. Both sides immediately drew up a contract. Vader hesitated before signing the contract. However, under the pressure of the crowd, in the end, he signed the contract. The contract left a mark on both of them. Then, where is Odin's treasury? Below. Vader pointed to the sea directly below where Asgard was floating. The main body of this world is not actually Asgard. Instead, it was the endless sea below. Vader took the four of them into the sea. At the bottom of the sea was a gigantic magic array. There were exactly 5 directions. Everyone looked at Vader. How do we open it? Everyone stand in one direction. I'll stand in the middle. You pour the 4 elements of water, fire, wind, and earth into all directions of the magic array, and I'll guide the water, fire, wind, and earth energy to hit the eye of the array. They weren't afraid that Vader would cheat. His soul was still in the hands of Blood Mary, 23rd generation, and he was bound by the contract. If Vader went against it, it would definitely make him want to die. If the pain of kicking his balls was 100, then the 4 of them would definitely make Vader feel the pleasure of kicking his balls every second. Vader wasn't going to die. What a joke. 400 years was neither a long time nor a short time for him. If he endured it for a while, he would be able to endure it. But if he jumped around in the hands of these 4 people, he would be taught a lesson in minutes. The magic array opened. A beam of light shot out from the magic array and broke through the sea. Let's go in. Everyone followed Vader into the beam of light. They came to an extremely desolate, small world. It was very, very small. As far as the eye could see, it looked like it was only the size of a block. In this small world, there was only one tall building. The building style was similar to Asgard's. Judging from the style of the building, it only lacked a sign saying Treasure House at the door. Everyone landed on the grass. Not far away, they saw a girl with all 4 limbs chained. She was crying on a rock nearby. She wore a thin veil, but one could vaguely see her exquisite figure. Who's this? Is she also Odin's collection? Zhang Tianyi sized up the beautiful girl. Does Odin like this? I knew he wasn't a good person, Chen Zhao said. Vader looked at the girl. He'd come here a few times with Odin, but he'd never seen this girl before. I don't know. The girl lifted her head, revealing her beauty. Her face was streaked with tears, making her look even more delicate. Can you help me? Please. Who are you? No one approached her now. Someone who'd been chained here by Odin definitely wasn't a good person. Even if Odin was an old bitch, you didn't need to do this. Asgard had many goddesses. Moreover, Odin was in his previous state. Would he still be able to play? I'm Giafian, the girl said. Giafian? Goddess of prophecy? 23rd Blood Mary said in surprise. How is that possible? But Giafian? Vader was even more surprised. Is that strange? Vader, your father saw the bad luck because of my magic. He was afraid that the other gods would know about the prophecy, so he imprisoned me here. So you also saw us. Chen Zhao squinted at Giafian. No, before I was imprisoned, I only foresaw the twilight of the gods and the fall of Odin. This imprisonment has restricted my divine power and authority. Goffine raised her hand, and the chains connected to her wrist clanked. If you want me to help you see the future, Giafian said, you need to unlock my shackles first. I'm not interested in my future. Chen Zhao shrugged. Even if you can see my future, you'll probably see whose head I crush. No, I might be able to see your crisis. If you know it in advance, you can prepare in advance and change the ending. Chapter 2993. Compared to myself, I'm more curious about how you saw Odin die. Of course, he was bitten to death by the demon wolf Fenrir. Chen Zhao walked toward Goffine and suddenly grabbed Goffine's neck. Wrong answer. Do you have the heart to kill a weak woman? Goffine was lifted into the air by Chen Zhao. Goffine was lifted into the air, but her face was still so weak and pitiful. She didn't panic or not know what to do at all. None of the gods that I know are weak. That's true. Suddenly, Goffine let go of Chen Zhao's hand. Chen Zhao was stunned. He wanted to take another step forward, but he realized that Goffine's chains were now locked around his limbs. Just then, Goffine strolled toward Vader and the others. How delightful. I didn't think a god would bring 4 humans to save me. Just then, Gaffine's body started changing. She turned from a weak girl to an old woman, then from an old woman to a burly warrior, and then to it kept changing. It was as if she had 1,000 faces and 1,000 identities. We're not here to save you, evil god Loki, 23rd Blood Mary said. But you're here. You even freed me from the shackles yourself. More accurately, you replaced me. Replaced? I think you're wrong. That guy is definitely not someone to be fooled. Really? I thought he was just an idiot with all brawn and no brain. Evil god Loki turned his head and looked at Chun Zhao, his eyes full of mockery. Chun Zhao yanked the chains. They were pulled taut, but they didn't break. Ha! You want to break free from these chains? Stop dreaming. The king of the dwarves made it for me personally. Then Odin cast a spell and connected it with this small world. If you want to break the chains, you have to destroy this small world first. How are you going to do that now? Chun Zhao looked at evil god Loki, his eyes filled with dangerous light. I like your eyes. They're filled with danger and anger. Angering him is definitely not a wise choice. At the same time, he turned to look at Balder. If this world is destroyed, will Odin's treasury be destroyed as well? Vader nodded. Yes, Odin's treasury is at the center of this world. So it's a bunch of thieves. Vader, as the god of light, you're actually colluding with humans to steal Odin's collection. You really surprised me, the evil god Loki said mockingly. Vader glanced at evil god Loki and then at the chained Chun Zhao. What now? Vader asked. No problem. Zhang Tianyi quickly formed a hand seal with his hand. In the next moment, the seal hit evil god Rocky's body. Evil god Rocky was stunned and realized that he was perfectly fine. Are you kidding me? Evil god Rocky laughed. Or do you think that I was sealed for thousands of years, so you can easily defeat me? Perhaps it was because he was too strong that the old man thought that magic was effective against him. Evil god Rocky was about to go forward, but he realized that his hands and feet were chained again. He looked at Chun Zhao. He'd broken free from the chains. How was that possible? I didn't even touch you. How can you switch with me? How long has this guy been sealed for? Zhang Tianyi pointed at evil god Rocky. I don't know, Bader said. He should have been sealed by Odin after the Battle of Dusk. At least 3,000 years. No wonder you don't even recognize my heaven and earth great shift. Isn't heaven and earth great shift Zhang Wuji's skill? Chun Zhao stretched his limbs and chuckled at evil god Loki. So, as long as I don't touch you, I won't be switched, right? Human, what do you want? I can give it to you. Your wife. Evil god Rocky's face darkened. Human, although I'm chained, I'm still a god. I can't be insulted by mortals. Even Odin doesn't dare to talk to me like this. He usually does what he preaches, Yi Zichen said. Enough. Who gave you the courage? Evil god Rocky was angry. The consequences were severe. Chun Zhao smiled at evil god Rocky from a few meters away. Angry? Come, don't be angry. He threw a bone club in front of evil god Rocky. Evil god Rocky was furious. How could he insult a god like that? Evil god Rocky's body started to burn. Chun Zhao smashed evil god Rocky with lightning. Apart from some sparks, nothing happened. Huh, that idiot Saul's authority? You got Saul's authority? In the movies, Saul was Rocky's brother, and he beat Rocky up. In reality, Rocky was Saul's uncle, not to mention Rocky's own strength. None of Rocky's 3 children were easy to deal with. The legendary demon wolf Fenrir who could bite Odin to death, the legendary earth snake Jormungandr who could circle the earth with its head and tail, and the goddess of death Hela were all his children. As a father, Rocky might not be stronger than his children, but he wasn't weaker than them either. At least in terms of inheritance and intelligence. He was definitely stronger than Saul. So, it wasn't hard to understand why he was unscathed after taking Chun Zhao's 5-blow thunderstruck head-on. Chun Zhao, let's get down to business, Zhang Tianyi reminded. You want to leave after angering me? Rocky looked at Chun Zhao with a dark expression. What else? Chun Zhao stopped. He didn't want to care about Rocky at first. He didn't need to kill someone to punish them. Imprisoning them was a good choice, too. This was especially true for a notorious evil god like Loki. I want to challenge you. Do you dare to accept my challenge? A strong human. I don't dare. Evil god Rocky was stunned. Let's go with the plot, okay? I can't reply to you like this. If I lose, I could be loyal to you. Huh? Chun Zhao didn't believe Rocky's words. Evil god Rocky and Bader were two different concepts. For a god like Bader, he was enslaved for 400 years. He thought that 400 years would pass quickly. But evil god Loki, if he was enslaved for a year, what he was thinking about was how to kill his master in a year. So, even if he knelt before Chun Zhao wouldn't accept his submission. Chun Zhao also wouldn't be so naive to think that he could conquer him with his charisma. What a joke. This guy existed to rebel. He was a god of the Asgard gods, but he had to go against Odin with his wife and children. Then he would die with Odin. As the initiator of Ragnarok, Rocky didn't gain anything from this war, but he still did it. People said that there was only a thin line between a madman and a genius. But Loki was a pure lunatic, an unreasonable madman, 9 heavens god emperor. Chapter 2994. Chun Zhao wasn't interested in Loki's challenge at all. Odin's treasury was right in front of him. Why would he give up all the treasures and fight an evil god? You don't dare? You coward, Loki taunted. Evil god Rocky provoked. Of course, it was obvious that he was trying to provoke him. A dark red neutron star appeared in Chun Zhao's hand. Evil god Rocky's expression changed. He could feel the terrifying fire power contained in the dark red neutron star. Aren't you a lightning god? He wasn't surprised that Chun Zhao released attacks of other elements. At their level, it wasn't strange for them to have a few low-level spells of other elements. Attribute conversion was as easy as lifting a finger for them, but would definitely use up more energy. So if top-level spells were changed to other elements, their power would drop by a few levels. But Chun Zhao was different. The lightning god that Chun Zhao displayed was already strong enough. It was even enough to threaten him. But now, the fire power that Chun Zhao displayed far exceeded that of lightning. I heard that you're a fire god. I wonder if you can absorb fire attacks. Huh? Loki's expression was awkward. Actually, I'm just joking with you. Of course, he could absorb fire attacks. Loki had the fire god's fire god, but that didn't mean that he could instantly absorb all the enemy's fire attacks. It was like a thirsty person drinking water. It didn't mean that he could drink it all in the face of a mountain flood. That was the upper limit of absorption. If he ran to the other side of the mountain flood to drink water, he might be drowned by the flood. But the damage of Chun Zhao's dark red neutron star wasn't something that a flood could compare to. Chun Zhao dispersed the dark red neutron star. He didn't plan on using it to attack Loki. This guy looked like he bullied the weak and feared the strong. Plus, he probably wanted Chun Zhao to attack. The best thing to do is to ignore him. Bader was familiar with the secret tunnel. It seemed like he had come here many times. In the end, a powerful spell was cast on the door. In the end, Chun Zhao forcefully tore it open. When Odin's treasury appeared in front of everyone, everyone was stunned. Golden Splendor couldn't describe what they saw. Zhang Tianyi made an exaggerated expression like he was having trouble breathing. Chun Zhao, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary were all dumbfounded. This was not the first time Bader had seen this scene. But no matter how many times he looked at Odin's treasury, he was still shocked. The air was filled with the aroma of divine artifacts. The divine artifacts reflected each other's brilliance. Everyone looked at each other. Ow! Chun Zhao asked. Bader, how many can you recognize? A quarter, maybe less. Pick out the things that you can recognize first, said Mary, the 23rd generation blood. It's going to be a tough job. They probably wouldn't be able to finish distributing it in a few days. This was only a quarter of the treasures that Bader had identified and distributed. Everyone had 3 days to themselves. Then there were the unrecognizable ones. Chun Zhao's stupid method was to distribute them by weight. Everyone would try their luck as to what they were allocated. It took a total of 5 days. In the end, everything in Odin's treasury was divided up. Everyone left Odin's treasury. Evil god Loki was still at the same place. Looking at them walk out, evil god Rocky's eyes flashed. Bader, you brought them here to steal Odin's collection. Aren't you afraid of being punished by Odin? Everyone revealed a meaningful smile. Evil god Rocky caught the look in everyone's eyes. Did something happen to Asgard? Unfortunately, no one answered evil god Rocky's question. Tell me, what happened to Asgard? Odin is dead? No, Odin can't be dead unless Asgard is completely destroyed. The War of Dusk that I started failed because of this. I know better than anyone how difficult Odin is to deal with. Evil god Rocky suddenly roared. Hurry up and tell me. Clang. Suddenly, the chains that bound evil god Rocky's limbs snapped without any warning. Everyone was stunned, including evil god Rocky. He stared at the snapped chains in shock. Odin is really dead? Yes, he's already dead. Bader finally said the truth. Evil god Rocky's expression turned serious. Gradually, his expression turned hideous and crazy. Dead. Finally dead. That old guy is finally dead. Ha! Dead. Great, he's finally dead. Evil god Rocky laughed crazily and kept repeating the same words. Suddenly, evil god Rocky looked at Chun Zhao's group and Bader. Now, finally, no one can restrict me. No one can restrict me. Evil god Rocky grinned at them. Hand over everything you took from Odin's treasury. What if we say no? Bader, you should know that Odin is dead. I'm the strongest god in the Asgard race. Evil god Rocky said confidently. Evil god Loki said confidently. This group of stupid humans might still be hoping to get lucky, but you should know that you have no chance of winning. Maybe they still want to try. Bader looked at Chun Zhao's group. Just then, Bader walked forward. His palms burned with white and black flames. That's right. I want to try and see how strong the Asgard fire god is. It's been 3,000 years. I see humans again, only to find that they're still as ignorant as before. Evil god Rocky sneered at Bifla. Evil god Rocky's palms also burned with black and white flames. Especially in terms of fire. I control all flames, including the white scorching flame and the dark flame. Evil god Rocky played with the black and white flames in his palms. Anyone who uses flames before me is an idiot. Anyone who uses flames to challenge me is an idiot among idiots. Bifla launched an attack without a sound. Evil god Rocky didn't dodge. He allowed Bifla's right palm to hit his chest with white flame. At the same time, he slammed his right palm into Bifla's chest. Bifla was sent flying by the explosion. As for evil god Loki, he stood there unharmed. Do you see this? This is the difference. Bifla's gaze was still calm. He attacked again. This time, he used the dark flame in his left hand. Evil god Rocky didn't dodge. He used the same method to counterattack. Bifla was sent flying again. The remaining white flame and dark flame in Bifla's body exploded at the same time. Bifla spat out a mouthful of blood. Hee, what a childish method of control. I understand all of your attacks, but you don't understand the intent of my attacks. Your struggle will only make you appear weaker. Chapter 2995. Evil god Loki's words flew into the sky. To Chun Zhao and the others, this was a flag. As expected, the moment Loki finished speaking, he spat out a mouthful of golden blood. Dozens of bloody holes appeared in Loki's chest. Evil god Rocky raised his head in disbelief and looked toward Bifla. How is that possible? You're still an antique from a few thousand years ago. Times are changing. Even if you control the power of fire, if you don't know how to be flexible, you'll only be replaced, Bifla said coldly. Evil god Loki understood very quickly. As a fire god, his understanding and control of fire had reached an unbelievable level. So, you're using different types of fire to create a new element, evil god Loki said as his injuries healed at a visible speed. He absorbed the flames that Bifla had hit him with. He didn't expect the two flames to change when they clashed. That was why he was injured. But these injuries didn't stop him at all. Good idea, but you can't deal a fatal blow to me, evil god Loki said calmly. Plus, I already know your move. It's useless against me now. Bifla's lips curled into a smile. Zhang Tianyi, who was watching the battle from the sidelines, shook his head. As expected of an antique from thousands of years ago, he was originally stronger than Bifla, and he had a natural immunity and restraint against Bifla. In a normal battle, it would have been almost impossible for Bifla to win. But now, he's handing over the fruits of his victory. Chun Zhao didn't really understand. No matter how he looked at it, evil god Loki had the upper hand, right? Bifla should be the one getting beaten up. How do you know that Bifla will definitely win? No matter how you look at it, he has a higher chance of losing, right? Bader had the same opinion as Chun Zhao. Bader wasn't good either. He wasn't young either. Actually, in most battles between people of the same level, he was the one getting beaten up. Of course, he was used to being beaten up. Anyway, it didn't hurt. It didn't matter if he died. At most, he would be fine again in 10 seconds. Bader's entire skill was reflected in being beaten up. As for combat ability, he was just weak. Chun Zhao wasn't good either. Of course, combat power was the biggest difference between them. Chun Zhao's skill level was low, but that was because he had a wild way of doing things. The 23rd generation Blood Mary smiled and said, "What's 7 by 8? 56, why do you ask?" Chun Zhao turned his head and looked at Mary. "What about 7 by 8 by 9? 504. 7x 8x 9x 5? 25, 20. Then, Blood Mary, can you use another analogy? Have you forgotten that we Chinese all know mental arithmetic?" Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes and said, "Actually, every time Bifla attacks, it's like adding an equation. If Loki didn't absorb Bifla's attack from the start and chose to take it head-on or avoid it, there wouldn't have been any problems." The 23rd Blood Mary said, but he thought he was infallible and absorbed Bifla's attacks. Every time Bifla attacked with a different type of flame, it would make the absorbed flames more complicated to the point where even he couldn't analyze them. In the end, those flames would go out of control, and then can't he just not absorb it? Chun Zhao asked, confused. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd Blood Mary laughed at the same time. Chun Zhao blushed. Was it funny? He did not know what they were laughing about. In any case, he must be laughing at his ignorance. Of course, Bifla, an evil god, Loki heard their conversation. In truth, their conversation didn't avoid evil god Loki at all. Of course, evil god Rocky's expression was weird. After Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation Blood Mary's reminder, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He had already realized the problem. He even heard Chun Zhao's words. At the same time, he felt strange. Since that was the case, he just didn't absorb it. It was such a simple question, but why did they all look down on it? Bifla looked towards evil god Loki with a deep expression. At this moment, Bifla's palms lit up with 2 more balls of fire. One was a dark green netherworld ghost flame. The other was a ball of dark blue, bitingly cold smoke. Evil god Rocky felt a chill down his spine. He recognized both of them. After all, he was an expert at playing with fire. But after hearing what Zhang Tianyi and 23rd Blood Mary said, he felt like this was a huge hole. He couldn't absorb it. He couldn't absorb it. But evil god Rocky was afraid that he was already standing in a hole. At this moment, Bifla shot the netherworld ghost flame over. Evil god Rocky thought to himself, since he couldn't absorb it, then he would avoid it. But the netherworld ghost flame had a navigation system. Wherever evil god Rocky went, it would follow. It wasn't slower than evil god Rocky. Evil god Rocky saw that the situation wasn't good, so he turned around and shot out a black flame. Since he couldn't avoid it, then he might as well explode it. However, when the black flames came into contact with the nether ghost flame, they actually fused with it. The netherworld ghost flame became even more devilish and terrifying. The green flame was filled with an unsettling darkness. Evil god Rocky saw that the situation wasn't good and felt even more uneasy. The mutated netherworld ghost flame was even faster and charged at evil god Rocky. Evil god Rocky saw that he couldn't avoid it, so he ran towards Chun Zhao. He was really good at using the source of trouble. Chun Zhao grinned. Evil god Rocky instantly felt that something wasn't right. He felt like he had chosen the wrong target. Just as evil god Rocky wanted to change his direction, Luo Yunyang's eyes lit up. He suddenly felt an invisible power trap him. In that instant, the mutated netherworld ghost flame smashed onto his body. At that moment, the netherworld ghost flame seeped into his skin. When the netherworld ghost flame entered his body, evil god Rocky felt like he lost control of the power in his body. Evil god Rocky quickly suppressed the power that he lost control of. But at that moment, Bifla tossed a cold smoke over. Evil god Rocky absorbed it once more. The power that he lost control in his body became stronger, and it was several times more chaotic than before. You haven't improved in a few thousand years. Bifla shook his head. You really don't deserve to have the power of fire. Evil god Rocky gritted his teeth and looked at Bifla. That's just because your partner helped you. If you fought alone, you would have died long ago. Since you know that I have partners, you still want to fight us. Do you need us to give you a fair arena? Evil god Loki was a schemer. Of course, he wouldn't be so naive. But as the loser, he was still unwilling. But Bifla wouldn't show mercy because of his unwillingness. At that moment, he tossed another blood-red flame over. Chapter 2996. Evil god Rocky acted like he had a bad signal. His movements were slow. Facing Bifla's attack, he couldn't dodge at all. Of course, Chun Zhao was the culprit for his abnormal behavior. The flames seeped into Rocky's body once more. Evil god Rocky spat out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't move anymore. He became really weak. Chun Zhao's small world could easily suppress evil god Rocky. Bifla walked in front of Rocky. He was as proud as evil god Loki. He looked down at Bifla. Human, I acknowledge you. You are strong. In terms of using flames, you even surpass me. I am willing to submit to you and teach you all my techniques. Bifla revealed a faint smile. Evil god Rocky's lips curled into a smile. A momentary victory wasn't the key to deciding the outcome. In Rocky's life, no, in his mind, there was a word that was engraved in his dictionary: betrayal. He didn't need a reason, or rather, betrayal was his reason. To him, it wasn't unacceptable for him to bow down to Odin temporarily. Didn't he bow down to Odin in the past? Now, it was just a different person. When the time was right, he didn't mind starting another battle of dusk. You will be the new fire god. No, you could become the supreme god. Evil god Rocky understood humans too well. He believed that no one would be able to reject his allegiance and allegiance. No one could reject this supreme power. Moreover, he had many ways to break free from all sorts of restrictions. Be a vow or a contract, they weren't true restrictions on him. Sorry, I don't need your loyalty. Bifla shook his head and said. Evil god Rocky was stunned. He couldn't help but raise his head and look at Bifla. He didn't expect that the human would be so calm. Facing his loyalty, he didn't show any signs of being moved at all. This wasn't something that one should do when one was suppressing his excitement. This calmness made him feel uneasy. Evil god Rocky didn't notice it at all. Bifla had passed the age where he would be swayed by such words. Then what do you want? I can give you everything. I'm afraid you can't. Bifla shook his head. Right, I have been locked up for so long, and I have nothing. Evil god Rocky mocked himself. Bifla shook his head again. No, you do. I do. Your blood. What? What nonsense are you talking about? Bifla didn't reply evil god Loki's question. Instead, he stretched out his hand. Very quickly, evil god Rocky sensed that something was wrong. Evil god Rocky felt that the flames that he absorbed were being sucked out once more. Not only was his flame power being extracted, but his blood was also being extracted. His blood was filled with divinity, divine power, and the power of flames. Stop. What are you doing? You are offending a god. You are committing a grave sin. Evil god Rocky was anxious, but his words could not stop Bifla. Bifla was still extracting evil god Loki's blood. If you want a stronger method, I have one. To me, this is not a problem. Stop. Evil god Rocky shouted anxiously. Bader, are you just going to watch? Are you just going to watch him kill your people? Bader didn't have a good impression of evil god Rocky at all. Sorry, there is nothing I can do. What a joke. Facing the person who started the Battle of Dusk, it would be weird if Bader had a good impression of him. Not to mention that he was powerless to interfere. Even if he had the strength, he would just hit him when he was down. He wouldn't save him. Evil god Rocky became weaker and weaker. He wanted to struggle more and more. But Chun Zhao suppressed him firmly. Evil God Rocky kept changing his looks. Let me go. The old lady form. Please don't. The young lady form. Evil God Rocky had many faces, but it wasn't enough to shake everyone's attitude. Evil God Rocky was a huge threat as long as he was alive. If he didn't break free from Odin's seal, then no one would care about him at all. She was joking with him, just like before. But he asked for it. The first thing he did after breaking free was to find trouble with everyone. Evil God Rocky's body started to dry up. He was like a starving ghost that hadn't eaten for a few hundred years. In reality, he really hadn't eaten for a few hundred years. Finally, the last drop of blood was sucked dry by Bifla. In front of Bifla, a red blood ball with a hint of gold circled. But Evil God Rocky wasn't totally dead. As one of the strongest gods in the Asgard god race, even if his blood was sucked dry, he still had a strong life force. Bifla, give me his body, Zhang Tianyi said. Bifla looked at Zhang Tianyi. What do you want to do? Refine medicine. Refine god medicine. Zhang Tianyi looked at Evil God Rocky's dry body and said, although you suck dry his body is still a precious ingredient. Evil God Rocky didn't expect that one day he would face such a bunch of evil people. Was he the evil god, or were they the evil gods? Why did he feel like they were more evil than him? All of us want one, Chun Zhao said. The others nodded. Okay. Zhang Tianyi agreed decisively. Zhang Tianyi took out a scroll and drew a few strokes on it. Then he slapped it at Evil God Rocky. Evil God Rocky was sucked into the scroll. Bifla also put away all the blood. He had gained a lot. At least, he had a rare, satisfied smile on his face. We can leave now, right? Let's go. By the way, what's up with that small world of nothingness? Why did it absorb our power? Zhang Tianyi asked. That was a new small world. It doesn't belong to any of the 9 realms. It could be considered the 10th world. But that small world isn't perfect, and it can't produce spiritual energy. Instead, it will steal the power of living beings that enter and turn it into spiritual energy. Everyone exchanged glances. They were all shocked. Zhang Tianyi nodded. A new small world has a lot of research value. If we have a chance, we can go there again. Maybe we'll comprehend something different. But it's a little troublesome to enter that small world. The environment there counters us too much. Why aren't you affected? Zhang Tianyi looked at Balder and asked, although you're fundamentally different from us, you also absorb spiritual energy, right? If I seal my energy sense in advance, I won't be affected by that small world. But I can't absorb spiritual energy either. I can only not consume it. Chapter 2997. Everyone was curious about the small world of nothingness. It was different from the first 2 small worlds. The 2 stations they'd passed at the beginning were worlds that had already been destroyed. Everything had been destroyed and obliterated. The small world of nothingness that Bader had schemed against and locked them up in was a new world. Because the laws of that world weren't complete yet, there was nothing there. But the 2 worlds were completely different. Many small worlds have been destroyed, but there were very, very few new worlds. It could even be said that it was worth more than a few divine artifacts put together. At least to Chun Zhao, Zhang Tianyi, and Bifla, they were priceless treasures. It was a path to explore the mysteries of the ascension state. In the past, on the path of cultivation, they had explored their own bodies to the extreme. Now, they didn't need to explore themselves, but the world. Nothing was more valuable than exploring a new world. Mary, the 23rd generation, went home first. She'd been invited by Zhang Tianyi's spell. Zhang Tianyi removed the spell, and she went straight home. Convenient, efficient, and fast. It wasn't so convenient for Chun Zhao, Zhang Tianyi, and Bifla. They had to go back the way they'd come. It was the old way, stopping at each station. Alfheim, it's so beautiful. No matter how many times, it's still so mesmerizing. By the way, it shouldn't be a problem for us to take over this world, right? Zhang Tianyi asked, is there a country in this world? No country, but I hope their lives won't change or be shaken. They're all kind elves who yearn for peace. They only have a social system formed by small tribes. If humans discover this world, it'll be a disaster for them. Chun Zhao glanced at Bader. In his eyes, Bader was a rather selfish person. He didn't expect him to have this side. When he talked about the races of Alfheim, his face was filled with gentleness. At least, it was much gentler than when he talked about the Asgardians. It was as if this was his home and the races here were his family. Feeling Chun Zhao's gaze, Bader glanced at him. I'm the faith of all the races in Alfheim. I have the duty to protect them. Chun Zhao shrugged. Fine. He didn't want to be an invader and terminator for no reason. This world was indeed so beautiful that it was intoxicating. However, it was as fragile as a crystal ball. Don't say that you're here to play or just to find some treasures. As long as one entered this place, they would definitely come into contact with the races here. After a few times, there would eventually be conflicts. Some things were not because of anyone's subjective malice. It was more likely due to different habits and different standpoints. Although Bader's words seemed gentle, there was a hint of toughness in them. Half a day later, everyone finally returned to Earth. The familiar environment, the familiar air, and the familiar spirit Qi. Xiaohe, don't you have potato chips? It's outside. Go and move it. I don't want to move. Carrie shifted her bottom. You haven't cultivated for the past few days, have you? No. Anyway, that bastard isn't here. She picked up the bottle of cola next to her and took a sip. Life without that bastard is wonderful. I feel like every day is heaven. If he comes back, you're dead. I hope he never comes back. God, I pray to you that he dies somewhere. Amen. Crack. It was the sound of chips being chewed. Both Carrie and Xiaohe were stunned for a moment. Then they saw Chun Zhao walk in with a bag of chips. It tastes good, Chun Zhao said. Pooh. Carrie spat out all the cola in her mouth. Smiling, Chun Zhao looked at the terrified Xiaohe and Carrie. What did I just hear? You seem to be cursing a bastard. Tell me, who is this bastard? I'll kill him. As he trembled, who gave you the courage to call me bastard behind my back? Chun Zhao roared. Xiaohe's and Carrie's little nest was shattered. Mr. Chun, don't be angry. It's not good if the neighbors see, Xiaohe said carefully. It's fine. The neighbors have all moved away. You two are the only ones left in this community. Huh. From today onwards, you can get 100% training without going out. I'll bring your trial target here. Who's that? Get out here. Oh, it's Han Wu, Chun Zhao said. Han Wu really wanted to hide in Carrie's body. Anyway, Chun Zhao was teaching Carrie a lesson, not him. But this time, Chun Zhao called him out. He couldn't pretend that he wasn't there. Boss, why did you call me? Chun Zhao flicked his finger. Instinctively, Han Wu opened his mouth. When it entered his mouth, his first reaction was that it was a soul fragment. But it was different for what he remembered. It was thicker and purer. It was a very small piece. It might only be the size of finger, but it was very real. Usually, Carrie would catch some evil spirits for him. It was gone in one mouthful. It was mostly digested before it even entered his stomach. That feeling was like the beginning of drinking white wine. It was tasteless and not filling. But the soul fragment Chun Zhao had just given him was completely different. Even after it entered his stomach, he still felt full. It felt like military compressed biscuits. One piece filled him up, and he could save money for a few days. Boss, is there more? Han Wu clearly wasn't full. If Carrie slacks off again, beat her to death, Chun Zhao said sinisterly. Got it. Boss, don't worry. Leave Carrie and Xiaohe to me too. Actually, Han Wu wasn't stupid. Chun Zhao had clearly been asked by someone to train Carrie. Chun Zhao's actions were already very obvious. Only Xiaohe and Carrie were confused. They thought that Chun Zhao was just messing with them. He enjoyed torturing them, but he didn't tell Carrie about this. Since Chun Zhao didn't want to, he obviously wouldn't. He was mainly afraid that Chun Zhao would beat him to death if he said too much. After all, it was true that Chun Zhao was training Carrie and Xiaohe, but he was also good at torturing people. Carrie opened her mouth, unable to speak for a long time. You're attached to me. Why are you helping an outsider? He bought you over with just one mouthful of food? Xiaohe was also upset. I'm just here. You guys can do whatever you want. It's none of my business. Plus, I haven't been slacking these days. Okay, you can move now. Move? What? Xiaohe and Carrie were both dumbfounded. I've created a small supernatural space in this community and placed a few hundred evil spirits and monsters there. Every day, 1/20th of the evil spirits and monsters will be released. All you have to do is destroy all the evil spirits and monsters. Then, the barrier of the supernatural space will open, and you can leave this place. Chapter 2998. They would release 1/20th of the evil spirits and monsters every day. It didn't mean that they had to kill the same number of evil spirits and monsters every day. As long as they could survive the pursuit of the remaining monsters, it would be fine. Of course, if they couldn't kill 1/20th on the first day. Even if they managed to survive, they wouldn't be able to kill them on the second day. If they accumulated like this every day, the pressure they faced would gradually increase in the last few days. In the end, the situation would completely collapse. Of course, this wasn't the result Chen Zhao wanted. Chen Zhao's goal of modifying the community wasn't just to increase the difficulty. Instead, he wanted to limit the difficulty to their own level. They were both stuck at a small bottleneck. They needed more intense battle pressure to break through this bottleneck. After explaining the situation briefly, Chen Zhao left. He left Xiao He and Carrie behind, dumbfounded. Soon, they sensed an extremely evil aura appearing nearby. It wasn't that their senses were too outstanding. It was just that the aura was like a septic tank. It was trying to make its presence felt within a few kilometers. It was difficult for them to pretend to be ostriches. The two girls exchanged glances, both feeling helpless. Chen Zhao looked at them. He had left, but he didn't go far. At most, he would leave their sight. After all, it was Chen Zhao's first time creating this kind of training field. Its function was similar to the Tower of Trials that the handsome guy had given him. However, the effect was 10 billion light years different. This was a reflection of Chen Zhao's skill. It was also paired with the divine artifact he'd just gotten from Odin's treasury, the Mountain's Breath. The Mountain's Breath was a large energy gem. It was used to maintain the energy supply of this large training field. Without the Mountain's Breath, Chen Zhao really wouldn't have been able to create this training field. The evil spirits and monsters in the training field were actually quite ordinary. Under normal circumstances, they belonged to the category of things that were slightly stronger than ordinary people. If they stood in a row and didn't have to worry about spirit penetration, a Ferrari could crush them all. However, in this training field, they leveled up 3 times consecutively. The strongest ones were at the Calamity level, almost half a step into the Enchanting state. However, the strongest ones would only be released in the last few days. After they were killed, they didn't really die. They just returned to the ground. After a few days of cooldown, they would reactivate the next time the training field was activated. Therefore, it could not be compared to the Tower of Trials at all. Every level of the Tower of Trials was a small world. There was no cooldown time for the monsters to respawn. Chen Zhao did not leave, partly because he was worried about Xiao He and Carrie's safety. Furthermore, he was worried about the trial grounds he had created himself. After all, it was his first time trying to make something like this. For this, Chen Zhao even bought the entire community. Secondly, he wasn't sure if Xiao He and Carrie were suitable for this training field. After all, the two of them were not professional testers. Fortunately, the two of them performed well. At least for now, their behavior was a bit out of his expectations. The first evil spirit that was released. It didn't take them much effort to solve the problem. At the same time, he also gave them a portion of dusk soil when dealing with the evil spirit. It was a low-grade alchemy material that was produced in large quantities worldwide, but it also had many uses. Many alchemy tools and potions could be made with dusk earth. Xiao He's face darkened as the two of them looked at the fallen soil. Does that guy think this is a game dungeon? Carrie. Yes, Chen Zhao had created this trial ground based on the concept of a game dungeon. Apart from the concept, Chen Zhao could also adjust the dungeon. No, the trial ground values. It could go up or down 10 times. In fact, 10 times the difficulty didn't make much of a difference overall. For example, if the strongest evil spirit was half a step in a Enchanting, it would still be half a step in a Enchanting even if it was 10 times stronger. Chen Zhao waited until they dealt with all the awakened enemies on the first night before leaving. He had to admit that their improvement was quite obvious. Carrie looked like she'd been slacking off for a few days, but she was probably secretly training too. In the next few days, Chun Zhao arranged for someone to watch over them. This was to prevent unexpected situations from happening. He had to admit that fighting was the best way to improve one's strength. This wasn't just empty talk. Carrie and Xiaohe's strength improved very quickly. They'd broken through that small bottleneck long ago, and they'd broken through unknowingly. Then it was a smooth road. They improved by leaps and bounds. As a result, Chun Zhao had to secretly increase the difficulty a few days later. As non-professional testers, the two of them were actually to provide Chun Zhao with experimental data. "Hey Chun, are you interested in participating in an auction?" Steven suddenly called him. "Yes, Chun. What auction?" "It's an auction of my private collection," Steven said. "I plan to auction some of my collections." "Huh? Do you need money?" "If you do, I can lend you some," Chun Zhao said. With his relationship with Steven, as long as Steven asked, he could give him as much money as he wanted. Plus, with Steven's fame, he was definitely worthy of Chun Zhao's financial support. Perhaps he wouldn't return Chun Zhao with wealth. It might be a good investment. So, Chun Zhao didn't have to worry that Steven wouldn't be able to return the money. In fact, Chun Zhao hoped that he couldn't. "Indeed, I'm a bit short on money, but it's not a big problem. Plus, I have some collectibles that I can cash in." Most of the time, investing in art wasn't to make money, but to preserve their value. It was the same concept as investing in gold. But it was different. Gold was a hard currency and also a metal currency with a relatively stable value. Therefore, investing in gold was the kind where you wouldn't make much money, and you wouldn't lose much money either. Investing in art, on the other hand, was different. It was very likely that people would misjudge it. Moreover, the value of art aside, the market price of these things was also extremely unstable. It was also too easy to control. For example, if an artist's work was hoarded in large quantities, then every time they released a painting, the painting would be bought back at a high price. After a few times, the value of the artist's work would increase at an alarming rate. Art wasn't something that people understood. It was something that people interpreted. And the person who interpreted it was usually the one who benefited. Chun Zhao had always stayed away from this industry. Because he didn't know anything, he wouldn't bet his luck on something he didn't know. But Chun Zhao still decided to accept Steven's invitation. Regardless of whether he bought it or not, he would still have time to show off. Chapter 2999. "Gavich, why are you here?" Chun Zhao arrived at the auction. "Chun, I didn't expect you to be here too." Lila Gavich looked at Chun Zhao in surprise. "Don't tell me you're interested in something too?" Lila Gavich didn't feel good at all. Of course, he was here to buy something. Now, a suspected competitor had appeared. If it was another competitor, Lila Gavich would even want to make the competitor disappear. But Chun Zhao clearly wasn't the type that could be manipulated. Chun Zhao was richer and more powerful than him. Moreover, he owed Chun Zhao a huge favor. "No, Steven's my friend. He invited me here," Chun Zhao asked. "I'm here to sit down. Is there anything you need in this auction?" This." Lila Gavich hesitated. "I promise I won't bid against you," Chun Zhao said, shrugging. "A divine artifact." Lowering his voice, Lila Gavich said, "I saw it in the auction brochure." "Chun, you really won't bid against me, right?" Chun Zhao rolled his eyes. What a joke. A mere divine artifact wasn't even worth a few $100 million. A while later, the auction began. Chun Zhao and Lila Gavich sat together. Because it wasn't time for Lila Gavich to bid yet, the two chatted in low voices. Steven was the sponsor of this auction. Half of the people present were his friends, family, or connections. Chun Zhao had seen a few of them at Steven's private parties. Perhaps they had chatted for a while, or perhaps they had met once. In a public place like this, they would nod at each other when they saw someone familiar. Most of the items in this auction were within $1 million. 2 of them were unsold. The 2 that were unsold would probably end up in Steven's hands. After the 8th item was auctioned off. Just then, the auctioneer announced the 9th item. The Scarlet Star was a 6-kilogram red crystal. The quality of this red crystal was outstanding. Under the purposeful lighting of the auction stage, it was dazzling. Even the tycoons present were attracted by the crimson star. It was too beautiful. Chun Zhao could clearly feel Lila Gavich's spirit rise. It seemed that this was his target. However, when Chun Zhao looked at the crimson star, he couldn't help but frown. That was because he had one in his possession. The starting price of the Star of Scarlet was $1 million. As soon as the auctioneer announced the price, Lila Gavik could not help but shout out a bid. 1 million. 1,050,000. For $1 million. The crowd was in an uproar. They didn't expect a red crystal to fetch such a high price. According to the market price, they would definitely incur a huge loss. Generally, the price of jewelry collections and auctions will be closer to the actual price. For example, this large red crystal did not have any notable comments or biographies in history. Therefore, the price range of $1 million to $2 million was more in line with its actual price. But now, the price was raised to $4 million. This was obviously out of everyone's expectations. But what was even more shocking was yet to come. As the auction continued, the price soared to $10 million. Chun Zhao looked at the 4 people who were bidding against Lila Gavik. One of them was a beautiful woman in a red dress. The other 3 were all men, and they were all spiritualists. But Lila Gavik did not intend to give up. The other 4 did not give up either. When the price reached $20 million, one bidder backed out, including Lila Gavik. The 4 bidders were all red in the face. Gavik, is this the divine artifact you want? Chun Zhao asked in a low voice. Yes, the Star of Scarlet. More accurately, it's Frigga's red star. Frigga is, I know, Odin's wife in Norse mythology, the queen of gods, Vanir, and the queen of magic. This Star of Scarlet is real, right? Chun Zhao asked. Of course. I've investigated it. It's real, Lila Gavik said with certainty. Is there a similar model? That's impossible. This is a divine artifact. Then do you think that the one being auctioned now is a fake? Chun, I've already contacted Mr. Steven before the auction and had an expert appraise it. What's your target price? Chun Zhao asked in a low voice. Lila Gavik hesitated for a moment. $1 billion. But I don't have that much cash. If it really comes to that, I'm afraid you'll have to support me. But I don't think it'll go that high. I don't want to be in the headlines. I have one too. It's very similar to this one. I think the one you have is more likely to be a fake, Lila Gavik said with certainty. I just got that one. Maybe you should go find the person who gave it to you. Maybe you can get your money back. I didn't buy it. I got it from that man's collection room after I killed him. Fine. I think he's unlucky. Of course, you're unlucky too. He's a god, a real one. I didn't expect him to have a fake in his treasury. What? Lila Gavik cried out. Sir, please sit down. If you still want to bid, please bid. The current price is $31 million. Sorry. Lila Gavik sat down again, but he couldn't hide the shock on his face. Lila Gavik lowered his voice. Chun, are you telling the truth? The god I killed happens to be a god from Norse mythology, Chun Zhao said. Lila Gavik turned his head again to look at the scarlet star on the stage. Then he looked at Chun Zhao seriously. $200 million, Chun Zhao said. Lila Gavik nodded immediately. Sure, no problem, but I need to pay in installments. Installments at the bank's interest rate. No problem. Lila Gavik was even more excited. It had nothing to do with money. It was because Chun Zhao had given a definite answer. He was only 70 to 80% confident about the scarlet star on the stage. If he really bought it, he wouldn't even have time to cry. The scarlet star in Chun Zhao's hand was definitely real. After all, he'd killed a god from Norse mythology. Thus, the origin of the scarlet star in his hand was undoubtedly more convincing. Lila Gavik didn't bid anymore, but the auction for the scarlet star continued. The remaining 3 raised the price of the Star of Scarlet to $245. $5 million. Chapter 3000. It was a shocking price. The person who bid for the Star of Scarlet was the woman in the red gown. Lila Gavik was probably the only one who had a smile among the bidders. This auction was clearly out of everyone's expectations, too. A ruby crystal was sold for more than $200 million. This had already set a new record. Currently, the highest price for a gem was less than 100 million. Of course, it wasn't that the most expensive gem was less than 100 million. The few that were more expensive couldn't be auctioned, such as the Star of Africa or the Mountain of Light. These gems were all worth at least $1 billion. But unless the Eagle royal family was destroyed, they wouldn't take them out. Nevertheless, a ruby crystal had set a new record for a gem. That was extremely incredible. Everyone knew that crystals were far less expensive than diamonds. But the Star of Scarlet had set a new record. People couldn't help but be shocked by the shocking price. Lila Gavich couldn't wait to go with Chen Zhao to get the Star of Scarlet. At home, Portia and Zephyr were cleaning the house. Little Larissa was sleeping. Lila Gavich followed Chen Zhao into the house. The moment they entered the living room, Lila Gavich exclaimed in surprise. "Chen, you just putting it in the living room? It's pretty, isn't it? Now that I've sold it to you, I have to find a better replacement." Chen Zhao's tone was still reluctant. "A living room ornament worth $200 million. You're really extravagant," Lila Gavich said in annoyance. Indeed, if not for the $200 million, Chen Zhao really wouldn't be willing to change the ornament. After all, not every holy artifact was worth $200 million. First, there had to be someone with discerning eyes. Second, the person had $200 million. Third, the person had to be willing to spend $200 million. If someone was really willing to spend $100 million on every holy artifact, Chen Zhao wouldn't mind selling all of them. Beautiful, too beautiful. A perfect product. While Lila Gavich was amazed, he also couldn't bear to part with the Star of Scarlet. Portia looked at Lila Gavich, a rich man who had never seen the world, with disdain. "Zephyr, isn't this just an ornament? You can get one for a few $1,000s. Do you have to be so ridiculous?" Chen Zhao had placed it here half a month ago. They saw each other every day and didn't think much of it. Zevra glanced at Portia. "If you had $200 million in your bedroom, I would have the same expression." You mean $200 million US dollars? This crystal ornament?" Portia opened her mouth wide in disbelief. "Are you kidding me? I wipe this thing 3 times a day. You're telling me it's worth $200 million? If I accidentally break it one time, will I have to sell my body?" "Yes." Genevieve, who had entered before Portia, overheard the conversation. "Damn capitalists. Even the decorations in the living room are worth $200 million. Portia's face was filled with envy and jealousy. His gaze wandered around the living room. Maybe there's $200 million worth of stuff in here. Perhaps his boss didn't care at all. Perhaps he would have a chance to sneak home. "Have you confirmed it?" Yes, it's true. This is true." "Of course. After all, his previous master was a true god. It's well worth the $200 million price tag. By the way, what's its use?" Lila Gavich hesitated for a moment before finally asking, "Do you know what Frigga is best at? Giving birth to a son?" Lila looked at Chen Zhao in disdain. "It's divination. What's the use?" Chen Zhao didn't know how to do it, but many people he knew how to do some divination. There were many divination spells, such as Chinese divination, fortune-telling, physiognomy, and prime ministers. They were all divination spells. Western astrology was the same. Almost every religion and power had at least one divination spell. However, divination spells weren't really about predicting the future. At least, no one could accurately calculate what would happen in a certain month, a certain day, a certain minute, and a certain place a year later. Most divination spells were used in actual battles. They could predict what the opponent would do in the next moment or the direction of the battle. Chen Zhao obviously knew that Lila had her own motives. However, he didn't understand what the value of the $200 million was. If it was just divination, as long as it wasn't the end of the world, he should be able to find some people. At least, those fortune tellers definitely wouldn't need the $200 million. Simply put, fortune tellers could predict the future, but the further it was, the more vague it would be. If it was a prediction of what would happen in a day, it could be accurate down to the time, minutes, and seconds of stepping on dog shit. If it was a day later, they could basically predict what would happen at that time. However, if it was a longer time, the effect would plummet. If it was a year later, they could only predict what major events would happen on that day. For example, things like birth, aging, sickness, and death were considered major. If it was something that would happen 10 years later, then it would only be a catastrophic event that could be predicted. If it was 100 years later, it would probably be the end of the world. If it was a certain event, the more influential it was, the easier it would be predicted. If it was a person, the more powerful the person, the more variables there would be, and the harder it would be to predict. In the legends of our elven race, wait, you're the only elf messenger in centuries. You're a legend, right? I'm not a legend. Let's get back to business, Lila said seriously. Lila Gavich said seriously. According to the legend of the elves, there is an elven treasure. The elven treasure contains the secret of becoming an elven king. However, only the elven king can find the elven treasure. The elves no longer have an elven king, so the treasure was lost for thousands of years. In other words, it's a dead end, right? Without the elf king, I can't find the elf treasure, and without the elf treasure, I can't find a way to become the elf king. Yes, so I can only ask for help from outside and find the elf treasure through divination. All right, good luck to you then. The elf treasure was the elf race's business. Judging from Lila's attitude, he probably didn't want outsiders to interfere. Chun Zhao was curious about what the elf treasure had. However, Chun Zhao still respected Lila Gage. Chapter 3001. By the way, the people who bid against you today seem to be spiritualists too. They're from my race, Leelage said. But they're from a different branch. They shouldn't be your enemies, right? Not the White Elves, Lilagevich replied. Chun Zhao had some contact with the White Elves before, but they weren't close. After all, they were all active in the Los Angeles area. The White Elves knew who was in charge here. Thus, they still had a lot of conflicts with the Dark Elves led by Leelage. However, they were rather restrained and basically didn't make a big deal out of it. Even if someone died, it was their own matter. Very few people actually knew about it. In terms of personal relationships, Chun Zhao was biased towards Leelage. However, Chun Zhao had always remained neutral in the conflict between the two races. Leelage had never asked for Chun Zhao's help because he was at a disadvantage in a fight. Of course, the main reason was that he basically wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Between the two races, the Dark Elves were stronger. After all, there was Leelage, the elf messenger. The current leader of the White Elves was Undine. She was also Leelage's old lover. His two mixed-blood children were also the princes of the White Elves. Thus, no matter how much conflict there was between the two races, Leelage wouldn't kill them. Moreover, this society couldn't be like before, where people would fight to the death for every little thing. The conflict when they'd fought for the entrance to a Mandatel's lair was already the biggest conflict between the two races in recent years. Okay, I wish you success. In the modern world, elves could basically be divided into White Elves and Dark Elves. However, it didn't mean that there were only two races. There were also a considerable number of races and branches. For example, Gray Elves, Blood Elves, and Shadow Elves were the more common branches of elves. There were also some rarer ones, such as Snow Elves and Forest Elves. Either the tribe lived in an inaccessible place, or the environment was harsh. Or they lived in seclusion in places that ordinary people couldn't reach, rarely or never coming into contact with humans. Their names basically represented some of their characteristics or habits. However, in this era, it was almost impossible to not enter the world at all. Even the elves were a proud race. Even though they still maintained their seclusion, they couldn't avoid choosing some spokespeople in human society. Chun Zhao watched the news on TV. At this moment, on Route 5, an unusual gunfight was taking place. Needless to say, the American news channels never lacked such exciting gunfights. But gradually, his smile froze. That was because, on the television screen, there were some lights that did not belong to firearms. Oh my God, what happened? What was that red light? Was it some sort of weapon developed by the military? Did you take a picture of everything? Maybe the director can replay the scene just now. It seems to be some kind of laser weapon. The reporter on the helicopter said in an exaggerated tone, anyone who understood elemental magic would know that the red light was a death ray. It was a high-level skill, but it was quite practical. It was practically a necessary skill for fire elementalists. Just then his phone rang. Guild leader, where are you right now? Is it convenient to turn on the TV? Or go to the official website of XXTV News Channel. There's a live news broadcast there. I'm at home, and I'm watching the news you mentioned. Send someone over immediately to stop this farce. Also, arrest those who deserve to be arrested, and let those who deserve to die die. Also, let this news end here. Very soon, the news stopped. The host in the broadcasting room said that there was a problem with the signal. Yes, it was West. He did not communicate with the TV station. Instead, he cut off their satellite signal. However, the car chase, the gunfight, and the magic battle continued. A woman in a red dress stood up from the sports car in front. Go see, don't be so impulsive. It's too dangerous. The driver was also a woman. In contrast to the woman in red who had stood up, she was dressed in black and had the same sexy aura. Rhine, those shadow bugs are too annoying, Go see said coldly. I don't want to continue fighting with them. Don't go overboard. The helicopter in the sky should be from the TV station. Then I'll shoot them down first, Go see said. Are you crazy? Do you want to expose the spiritual world? Do you want to be the enemy of the entire world? Maybe we're being watched by the entire world right now, Rhine shouted in terror. Fine. There's a tunnel ahead. Let's do it there. In the end, Go see decided to compromise with reality. She had no choice. No matter how much she wanted to go against the world, she had to think about her blood elf tribe. Rhine stepped on the gas, and the car charged into the tunnel. The two cars chasing after them also charged into the tunnel. Rhine, lead with the Scarlet Star first. I'll stop them. Go see suddenly jumped down from the sports car, her palms burning with heat. Molten fire, Go see shouted. A few cracks suddenly appeared on the ground of the tunnel, and the ground was covered with lava. The two cars immediately sank into the cracks and were gradually swallowed by the lava. However, the people in the cars quickly escaped. The leader was a tall man in a black windbreaker. Go see, hand it over. Delator, can you afford it? I bought it for $245.5 million US. You won the auction, but that doesn't mean you have the Scarlet Star, the man in the windbreaker said coldly. That $200 million is just your tuition fee. You don't have the right to collect my tuition fee, including the shadow tribe behind you. Is that so? What if you add us? Suddenly, the lava on the ground began to rapidly cool down. At the same time, the air in the tunnel rapidly cooled down. A piercingly cold wind blew in from the entrance of the tunnel, carrying with it a few snowflakes. It should be noted that it was just past May. The cold wind and snowflakes in this season obviously weren't due to the weather. 5 women in white walked out of the snowflakes. Snow elves? They're not good partners, Go see said mockingly. There's no need for you to sow discord between us. We're not partners, at least not after I get the Scarlet Star from you, the man in the windbreaker said. To put it bluntly, they were only working together temporarily. After Go see, who represented the Blood Elves, was eliminated, it would be their turn to fight against the Snow Mountain tribe. The Snow Mountain tribe was half-hidden, and the Shadow tribe didn't have much influence in human society. They were much weaker than the Blood Elves, who had developed in human society for hundreds of years. That was why they had no choice but to temporarily team up to deal with the Blood Elves. Chapter 3002. Go see was the strongest, but she wasn't sure she could suppress everyone. After all, she was alone, while the Dark Shadow and Snow Mountain clans had 12 people. It wasn't hard to run. No one could stop her if she wanted to. So her plan was to stall for time so that Rhine would have enough time to run away. The man in the trench coat and the Blood Elf didn't give the order to attack immediately. Go see was famous for her strength among the elves. Very strong. How strong was she? It was similar to Zhang Tianyi's status in the spiritual world. Go see was also known as the strongest among the elves. With her fiery temper, she had fought with almost every clan. Whenever she had a conflict with a clan, she would go around the clan's territory. Then she would leave unscathed. She had even visited the territories of the White and Dark Elves. She didn't go overboard. She just wanted to intimidate them. After a dozen times, Her reputation was recognized by all the clans. Of course, there was her strength, but her title as the strongest among the elves wasn't real. After all, every clan had their own secrets. There were a few old fellows who couldn't be bothered with a little girl who wasn't even 50 years old. So as long as she didn't go overboard, the older generation wouldn't do anything to her. However, her strength was the real deal. She might not be able to catch up to the older generation, but among the elves of the same generation or the older generation, she was almost universally acknowledged as the #1 expert. Of course, the Dark Shadow and Snow Mountain clans had the advantage in numbers. They wouldn't lose if they really fought. More importantly, they all wanted each other to attack first, so they could reap the benefits. That was why the situation was in a stalemate. But this situation wasn't destined to last long. The three forces could break the stalemate at any time. Suddenly, an abrupt voice was heard. Sorry for the interruption. Everyone looked over and saw a middle-aged man coming from the other end of the tunnel. I'm a manager of this area. My superiors sent me here to check out the situation and treat you to coffee. Can you come with me? Scram. Go-See glanced at the newcomer. You're so pretty, but not cute at all. Ungalit looked helpless. You're making things difficult for me. I don't like to fight. Ungalit took out the dragon-tooth dagger and made a throwing motion. Be careful. My projection isn't very accurate. No one took Ungalit seriously. It was as if this uninvited guest was just air. Ingelite's dragon-tooth dagger flew out of his hand. No one cared about Ingelite's attack. Too weak, this kind of attack couldn't hit any of them. Whoosh! Suddenly, Ungalit disappeared. In that instant, Go-See's scalp went numb. A strong sense of danger welled up in his heart. The outer layer of the aura was broken through. The inner layer of the aura was broken through. Then there was the magic shield around them. Go-See instinctively released a raging flame. Then, a blurry figure flew backward. It was too fast. The opponent instantly gave up on attacking Go-See. They turned to attack the Dark Shadow clan and the Snow Mountain clan. Not good. It's a speed enhancer. Damn it, he's too fast. In an instant, the 8 elves of the Dark Shadow clan and the Snow Mountain clan fell to the ground. Ungalit gently caught the dragon-tooth dagger that flew towards him. The elves of the remaining 3 parties were all numb. Terrifying. Maybe it was only a few seconds. In such a short time, he actually killed 8 elves in an instant. And the only one who reacted was Go-See. But Go-See knew that if there was no one else present, she would definitely be killed in an instant. Because it wasn't that this middle-aged man couldn't kill her in an instant. It was because he needed 2 or 3 seconds to break through her. If he tried to break through her in 2 or 3 seconds, then the others would inevitably take advantage of it. He made the best choice, gave up on her, and turned to attack the others. A spiritualist like Go-See would usually release her aura out of habit. The main function of the outer aura was perception, and it had a certain defensive power. If the enemy was casting magic, it could slightly distort the trajectory of the magic or slow down the speed of the magic. The inner aura, on the other hand, had higher defense and fast perception. Coupled with her own defensive magic, she could resist most attacks. It could be said that she could react to most attacks as soon as the magic came into contact with the outer and inner auras, so that she could make strategic feedback and decide whether to dodge, block, or counterattack. Even a speed enhancer could do the same. But this was talking about ordinary opponents. Unlike Ungalit, who was fast to the extreme. And Ungalit wasn't just scary in terms of speed. When Go-See counterattacked just now, Ungalit made the decision to give up in an instant. This kind of decision that he made in an instant was what Go-See was afraid of. The opponent's combat experience was too rich, and his combat awareness was too sharp. Also, his appearance as a middle-aged, decadent man was too deceiving. When he appeared, no one, including Go-See, realized how scary he was. The dagger that the opponent threw out. First, it gave the illusion of contempt, although it could only be used once. Once, it had already played a decisive role. Do you need me to repeat myself? Can you give up resistance and cooperate with me? Go-See smiled lightly. Okay. Oh, you accepted it so easily? I'm suddenly not used to it. Elite smiled awkwardly. This is the first time I've met someone who is so cooperative at work. First of all, you need to be able to catch me, said Go See with a smile. Elite frowned. Catch you? Didn't you see how fast I was? Go See smiled lightly, and his body suddenly turned into a ball of flames. Next, his physical body began to disappear. Elite felt his teeth aching. So troublesome. Forget it. You can leave. Against enemies who could elementalize, Elite was the most troublesome. Of course, it wasn't that he couldn't deal with them, but he needed time. He was more proficient in quick battles. If the opponent wanted to escape, he really didn't have much of a way. Then, sir, goodbye. I hope you have a good time with them. By the way, the guy in the trench coat will be hiding in the shadows. I hope you can take him seriously. The man in the trench coat's face darkened. You can run if you want, but you have to give me information. What is the meaning of this? Fine, you better leave quickly. After all, my companions are about to arrive. If you encounter the others, you probably won't be able to escape. Also, if you want to fight next time, you better find a remote place to do it. Try to avoid the sight of ordinary people. That way, we won't interfere. Chapter 3003. An elite hoped that the other party would escape this time. If they wanted to fight next time, they would at least find a more secluded place. That way, they wouldn't have to trouble him. After Go See left, an elite looked at the Dark Shadow clan and the Snow Mountain clan. Okay, let's get down to business. Which one of you wants to surrender? Delatour snorted and stepped forward. We surrender, an elite said. If you surrender with such an attitude, you'll be beaten up. Do you know that? Soon, Angelite's team arrived. His team included his son. They brought the suspects back to the headquarters. They wouldn't kill them. They hadn't done anything too irreversible. They hadn't hurt ordinary people either. But they couldn't avoid being locked up. According to the rules of the supernatural organization, they would be locked up for about 6 months to a year. But before that, they had to be interrogated. Name, race, gender, magic attribute, hobbies. West handed each of the suspects a form. You have 10 minutes to fill it out. The more answers you fill in, the more you'll be forgiven. Of course, it's not God who forgives you. It's our president. Soon, they'd all filled out the forms. It was all basic information. They didn't have anything to hide. West took the completed form and went out. President, they're all done. Take a look. Chun Zhao took the forms. Yes. Then he walked into the interrogation room. Chun Zhao recognized him as soon as he entered. Delatour also recognized Chun Zhao. It's you. Delatour realized that Chun Zhao was the person who'd sat with Lila Gavich at the auction in the afternoon. Chun Zhao remembered Delatour because he was also one of the bidders for the Crimson Star. He'd also fought with the final bidder until the end. That was why Chun Zhao had such a deep impression of him. After all, there weren't many people who could raise the price to 240 million for a piece of rock. Even Chun Zhao couldn't do it. But Delatour did it, even though he wasn't the final bidder. Don't tell me that you openly chased and fought on the road today, just for that stupid crystal. That's a divine artifact, not a broken crystal. We also apologize to you for our actions. I hope you can forgive us, but we also have a mission that we must complete. This concerns our clan. I can pay the bail. We need our temporary freedom, and I guarantee that what happened today won't happen again. How much are you willing to pay? Chun Zhao asked, rubbing his chin. Chun Zhao basically knew what their goal was. Most of the questions were about the details. What they had done was neither big nor small. Therefore, it was understandable how he would deal with them. However, if they are really willing to pay the full bail, it wasn't like he couldn't let them go. Of course, they were not the courts. Therefore, it wasn't just bail money, but also ransom money. $10 million. Delatour said, me and my Dark Shadow clan, a total of 7 people, $10 million bail. Rubbing his chin, Chun Zhao said, before you pay the bail, I have something to tell you. Go ahead. The Star Scarlet that you guys bid for at the auction is fake. Don't ask me how I know this. In any case, I just know. Now, do you still want to go out and fight those people for that fake Star Scarlet? How is that possible? That's impossible. I found someone to verify it. It's real. Do you know what we're looking for? I'm done, Chun Zhao said. As for whether you believe me or not, I don't care. 10 million bail, and I promise that your battles and conflicts in the future won't happen in public and won't hurt ordinary people. The Latour lowered his head, his eyes flickering. Sir, the information you provided is worth 10 million. Of course, that's if it's real. Okay, after you pay, you can leave with your people. Remember what you said. Don't fight in public again. The next bail won't be just 10 million. The Latour had been thinking about something. Did Mr. Lila Gavich give up bidding for the Crimson Star because he listened to you? Before attending the auction, the Latour had actually investigated how many competitors there were. The Snow Mountain clan, the Blood Elf clan, and the local Dark Elf clan. Among them, the Dark Elf clan was the strongest. They were strong in all aspects, in every sense. If he wanted manpower, he had it. If he wanted money, he had it. It was said that their leader, Lila Gavich, was an elf messenger. An elf messenger that hadn't appeared in hundreds of years. Without a doubt, Lila Gavich was their biggest competitor. At least before the auction, they didn't have much hope in bidding. They were all prepared to fight for it after the auction. But to everyone's surprise, Lila Gavich gave up the bid halfway through. This obviously didn't match Lila Gavich's identity and his family background. The combined wealth of the Blood Elf clan, Snow Mountain clan, and Dark Shadow clan probably couldn't compare to Lila Gavich alone. Secondly, as a local power, the Dark Elves were one of the two major elf clans. They also had a geographical advantage, so if Lila Gavich bid to the end today, the other elf clans would definitely unite. If he won, they would fight among themselves. If he didn't, they would continue to unite and snatch the Crimson Star from the Dark Elf clan. Chun Zhao didn't answer to Latour's question. Since you know that the Crimson Star is fake, does that mean you know where the real Crimson Star is? The Latour looked at Chun Zhao. Sir, I'm willing to pay $50 million for this information. Chun Zhao glanced at the Latour. Who are you looking down on? Because of you, I wasted my rest time. After warning him, Chun Zhao turned to leave. If something like this happens again, I'll kill you all. The Latour was actually a bit angry, but he didn't flip out on the spot. For one, this was Chun Zhao's territory. Also, Chun Zhao seemed to have some good information. The Latour squinted at Chun Zhao's back. Should I find a chance to kidnap him? The supernatural organization was powerful. As the president, he shouldn't be weak either. I'm not confident. Perhaps I should contact someone else. Chapter 3004. Go see, you're finally back. Did you get rid of them? I was lucky. The local forces intervened, Go see said with a smile. But that guy was really strong. If the Dark Shadow and Snow Mountain clans weren't there, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to escape. Go see was still very afraid of Angelite's strength. Ryan, where is it? It's still in the trunk. Why did you put such an important thing in the trunk? Why take it down? It's big and heavy. If you didn't come back, I would have driven away. It'd be inconvenient to take it down. Fine. Ryan's words made sense. But Go see still wanted to see the Star of Scarlet with her own eyes. Only by seeing the Star of Scarlet with her own eyes could she feel at ease. Ryan brought the Star of Scarlet in. Go see took the Star of Scarlet and heaved a sigh of relief. It was dazzling and as red as blood. The Star of Scarlet felt an unprecedented sense of peace. There was also a trace of indescribable aura hidden within it. The owner of this aura was definitely very powerful. It was so powerful that it couldn't be any stronger. Go see even didn't want to put it down after picking it up. Yes, this was the real Star of Scarlet. Go see thought for a moment and tried to send a trace of magic power into it. She didn't dare to send too much. After all, she didn't know much about the Star of Scarlet. She was worried that if she sent too much magic power, it would cause an unknown situation. After sending magic power into the Star of Scarlet, a voice sounded in Go see's mind. Child, you've awakened me. Go see frowned. What kind of consciousness was hidden in this Star of Scarlet? Who are you? You can read my inner thoughts? Your magic power is connected to my soul. It's like you and I are face to face. It's not that I want to read your mind, but you're standing right in front of me. I can't not hear you even if I wanted to. You haven't answered my question. Who are you and why are you in the Star of Scarlet? First of all, I need to correct you. This is a container or prison, not the Star of Scarlet. The soul in the Star of Scarlet said, "Secondly, I don't want to tell you who I am." Go See's expression changed. "You mean, this isn't the Star of Scarlet? This is impossible. The materials used for this prison are the same as the Scarlet Star, made from starstones, but their effects are completely different. Then do you know where the Crimson Star is?" "I think I know." "Then can you tell me where the Crimson Star is now?" "Sure." "How can you tell me where the real Scarlet Star is so easily?" Go See couldn't believe her ears. She even suspected that the other party had other motives. "There's no need to doubt my motives. I'm a sincere person, and I can't lie. Of course, I have my own motives as well." "Then what is your purpose?" "The Star of Scarlet is currently in someone's hands. I can't guarantee that he will give you the Star of Scarlet, but in exchange for your help, I can help you negotiate with him." "What if we can't come to an agreement? Can you help me fight him?" "I can't." "Why?" "Because I need to deal with the seal on my prison. Then what happens after the seal is removed? I still can't. I'm not good at fighting, even if the seal is removed. He's the bravest person, so I have no chance of winning against him." "Then how can you ask him to help you remove the seal?" Go See thought that the person sealed in this red crystal was an extremely powerful being. But hearing the other party's reply, Go See was disappointed. Of course, she still had her doubts about this soul. She couldn't just believe whatever the other party said. Moreover, the other party had already said that he was holding back. She couldn't be sure about the authenticity of the Star of Scarlet either. There was no doubt that the soul sealed here was very powerful. She could faintly sense the aura coming from the other party. "Of course I can give him conditions. Although you say that you're a sincere person, how do I know that you're telling the truth?" It sounded like he was blowing his own trumpet. Anyone could say it, and it had no binding power. It's not difficult to distinguish the authenticity of the Star of Scarlet if you know divination magic. "I know a little, but I'm not very good at it. The greatest function of the Crimson Star is to transform the mana of a spiritualist and greatly increase the power of magic. The enhancement of prophecy magic is the most obvious. This is related to the characteristics of its previous owner, so you could give it a try. Use this crystal ball to test your prophecy magic and see if it has been enhanced." "How do I test it?" Go See asked again. "What aspect of divination magic do you know?" "Increase the difficulty of your divination magic by 10 times. If you succeed, it means that the Crimson Star is real. If you fail, it's obvious that it's fake. Of course, if you're very proficient in divination magic, the difficulty of the divination can be increased by 100 times. Go See was better at fighting, and her divination magic level was the same as Rhine's next words. After a moment of consideration, Go See decided to test it according to the method that the soul sealed inside had mentioned. As expected, after a short test, Go See found that her prediction had failed. There was no amplification. At this moment, Go See's phone suddenly rang. When Go See saw the caller ID, she couldn't help but frown. "Delatour, did you escape?" "Go See, do you want me to get some information? Are you interested?" "Not interested." Go See was about to hang up. "It's about the Star of Scarlet. Are you sure you're not interested?" "The Star of Scarlet is in my hands now. Do I need to be interested?" "If the one in your hands is real, then you really don't need to listen to what I have to say next." "What do you mean?" "Literally. I got a piece of information. The Star of Scarlet in your hands is fake. As for the authenticity of this information, I have no way of knowing. You can verify it yourself." "Wait, where did you get this information from?" "Huh, your tone seemed a little strange. Shouldn't you deny what I said on the spot? Or have you already tested it? Or perhaps you found something suspicious? Tell me, what do you want?" "I got it from the president of the local supernatural organization. He's the one who captured us. I paid a ransom of $10 million to regain my freedom. This information is an extra gift, but I feel that he should know more. My people and I aren't sure." Chapter 3005. Is that person very strong? "I don't know. I haven't fought him, but you've seen his subordinates. They're already so strong, so he should be strong." Go See was undoubtedly a very good partner. Of course, the most outstanding thing about her was her strength. "This is too risky. You can't even confirm the information he has, and you're planning to fight a strong person, and he's the boss of a local force. He's the only choice. Can you find a second source of information other than him? Or do you want to wait a few decades or centuries for the next news of the Star of Scarlet to appear? Go-See narrowed her eyes. She really did have a second clue. Now, the Star of Scarlet in her hands was basically confirmed to be fake. However, the soul in the Star of Scarlet had also provided a clue that led directly to the real Star of Scarlet. Now, what she needed to struggle with was whether to cooperate with the soul in the Star of Scarlet or with Delardo. She needed to evaluate the gains and losses and the risks. Currently, the soul sealed in this fake Star of Scarlet was difficult to evaluate because there was too much unknown information. But it was precisely because of the unknown that Go-See felt it was dangerous. She couldn't even judge whether the information he provided was true or not. However, the conditions provided by this sealed soul made Go-See very tempted. As for Delardo, they were enemies, although it wasn't to the point of death. But they both needed the Star of Scarlet. This in itself was an irreconcilable contradiction. Therefore, stabbing someone in the back was a common practice. Not to mention Delardo stabbing her. If there was a chance, she didn't mind stabbing Delardo. I'll think about it. Go-See finally decided to cooperate with the sealed soul. As for Delardo, she would leave him to the side. If this path didn't work, then she would work with Delardo again. Simply put, Delardo was currently a spare tire. After hanging up, Go-See reconnected with the sealed soul. What's your goal? To undo the seal. How do you undo the seal? Destroy this fake? My soul is fused with the crystal. If the crystal is destroyed, my soul will be torn apart. The only way to free me is to fill the crystal with magic power. Fill it with magic power? How much? You? Far from enough. Give me an accurate value or difference. Probably 10,000 of you. Obviously, Go-See did not believe the words of this soul. This broken crystal, and it's a fake one at that. Yet it needs to be filled with 10,000 of my mana. In any case, he was considered an expert, and he had always been known for his mana capacity. What was the concept of 10,000 of himself? Even an entire supernatural region might not be able to amass 10,000 mana points of his level, right? Where are you going to find the person you're looking for? I can sense the location of the Scarlet Star. Are you sure the person you're looking for has the Star of Scarlet? And this person can undo your seal? Yes, I'm sure. I saw this scene thousands of years ago. What did you see? He obtained the image of the Crimson Star. Are you sure what you saw was real? Are you sure he still has it? Yes, he is very powerful. No one has been able to snatch the Crimson Star from him. So, I am very sure that the Crimson Star is in his hands. All right, where is he now? That direction isn't very far. Ryan, get in the car. We're going somewhere. To where? You'll know when you get there. Drive. Ryan did not understand why Go-See was so impulsive. However, she was still very obedient and was responsible for driving. Are you sure that person will help you undo the seal? I'm not sure. Then you can't be sure that he will satisfy my needs and give me the real Crimson Star? Yes. Also, can I ask, who exactly are you? Didn't I tell you? Perhaps you've heard of my name. I am the goddess of marriage, loyalty, kindness, and magic, Queen of Asgard, Frigga. What? Go-See, are you talking to me? Ryan turned and asked. No, I'm not. I just suddenly remembered something. Forget it. Keep driving. Look ahead. Thank you. Go-See suppressed the shock in her heart. God, even if it was a sealed god, it was still shocking enough for her. Are you really a god? Queen Frigga from the Norse mythology? I've already told you the answer. Whether you believe me or not is up to you. Before the seal is undone, I can't prove what I said. Then the person who can undo the seal, the one we're looking for, is he also a god? No, he's a human, Frigga said. As long as he's human. Go-See heaved a sigh of relief. She had thought that he was also a god. After all, facing a human and facing a god were two completely different concepts. Go-See, don't get distracted. What's wrong? Are you sure we still want to go forward? Is there a problem? Go-See looked at the pitch-black road ahead. If I remember correctly, we're in the territory of the Dark Elves. Are you sure it's a good idea for us to barge in? Especially since we're still holding the Crimson Star. Are you sure we're not going to die? Dark Elves? Go-See frowned. Why were they in the territory of the Dark Elves? Was the real Crimson Star in the hands of the Dark Elves? This was not good news at all. Don't worry, let's go in, Frigga said. But Go-See was still hesitant. To her, this was a tiger's den. I'm the god of magic, but you're sealed right now. I'm just asking you to meet him, not to fight here. Can't a simple invisibility solve the problem? Invisibility can't hide one's aura. A truly brilliant invisibility can't just hide one's aura. It can also deceive other people's senses. I can't do it. You don't have to do it. I can complete such a simple spell even if I'm sealed. You call this simple? Do you have some kind of misunderstanding about simplicity? Or do you think too highly of us humans? All right, let's go in. You've already cast an invisibility spell on me. Go-See suspected that she had been fooled. She didn't feel anything at all, and Rhine, who was beside her, was still there. If she had really cast an invisibility spell, she shouldn't have been able to see Rhine. Chapter 3006. Rhine was terrified of them walking into the Dark Elves' territory openly. She trembled, but it was just as Go-See said. The guards along the way really couldn't see them. As expected of the super geniuses of the Blood Elf clan, she could use invisibility magic to this extent. Go-See looked calm. In fact, she was panicking inside. Fortunately, Frigga's invisibility magic was powerful. Their journey was smooth. None of the Dark Elves noticed them. Goddess, are you sure it's okay for us to sneak in? Even if we want to see the person who can undo your seal, we should at least do it openly. If you don't display sufficient strength when you meet the other party, then you don't even have the qualifications to talk to the other party. The so-called request for an audience is only necessary after you know the other party and obtain the other party's approval, or you're the other party's subordinate. After all, Frigga had been a goddess for thousands of years. She knew how to show off. They could already see a luxurious manor in the distance. Go-See and Rhine silently entered the luxurious manor. I can feel it. The Crimson Star is here, very close. HM? Strange. That person's aura is a bit weak. Did we get the wrong person? No. Maybe he's hiding his aura. He definitely has the power. Frigga had given a perfect explanation. HM? He found us, Frigga said. Get ready. He's here. After a dozen seconds, Go-See couldn't help but complain. Are you sure he found us? He's really slow. Just then, a short fat man with a cigar in his mouth walked out. Lila Gavich? Go-See refused to admit that this man was the powerful person Frigga had asked for help. However, the Crimson Star in Lila Gavich's hand caught Go-See's and Rhine's attention. Go-See, what's in his hand? Yes, it's the real Crimson Star. What? Wait, what's in your hand? It's fake, Go-See said. Lila Gavich was surprised. Aren't these two little guys from the Blood Elf clan? Is this how your elders taught you to be guests? Get out of here. He's not the one we're looking for, Frigga said. However, Goth had no intention of leaving. Instead, she stared at Lila Gavich. Or rather, he was staring at the Crimson Star in his hand. If he could obtain the real Star of Scarlet. In that case, there was no need to go through so much trouble. Lila Gage rubbed his chin. Huh? How did you know that the real Star of Scarlet was in my hands? Go-See stared at Lila Gavich. Looks like you're planning to fight me. Strange. Why do you think you can defeat me? Especially here. We'll only know after we fight. Go-See was very confident at the moment. Frigga had given her something. Something he couldn't touch in the past. It was a kind of magical knowledge that had long been lost. And some of her understanding of magic. This made Go-See even more powerful. It even allowed her to vaguely touch upon a certain supreme realm. Strength gave her confidence. She felt that even if Lila Gavich had the real Scarlet Star, he might not be as powerful as this imposter. I admire your courage and confidence, Lila Gage said with a smile. You don't just need admiration. Go-See attacked. Red and blue light bloomed from her body, intertwining and spinning as she shot at Lila Gage. Lila Gage raised his right hand and shot out the same red and blue light. The two lights collided. Lila Gage's was more powerful. The moment it bloomed, the remaining energy shot at Go-See. As expected of the leader of the Dark Elves, Go-See thought, However, the red and blue light suddenly stopped a few meters before Go See. Then it disappeared. Lila Gage raised an eyebrow. Huh. It seemed that this young girl from the Blood Elf clan was more outstanding than he had imagined. In fact, Go See was shocked herself. She didn't expect to be able to defeat Lila Gage in just an instant. She wasn't the one who dispelled Lila Gage's red and blue light. It was Frigga. Go, you're no match for him. The difference between you two is too great, Frigga reminded her. Can I do it with you? If you didn't have the real Crimson Star, it would be possible, but the Crimson Star has increased the power of his magic by several times. Right now, I can only borrow your magic power. For example, I can't dispel the magic he used just now. Go See wasn't willing to give up. Is he really not the one who can remove your seal? Yes, I prophesied thousands of years ago. I saw the future. He's not the one. But didn't you say that he has the Crimson Star? I don't understand why he has it either, but he's not the one. Is it possible that he took the Crimson Star from that person? Go See felt that it was very possible. After all, the person wasn't weak. In fact, he was very strong. Of course, Go See had this idea mainly because she felt that those who were stronger than her were already top experts. Since Lila Gage could defeat her so easily, he must be unfathomable. As for the divine weapons, whether they were real or fake, they should cancel each other out. Therefore, according to Go See's calculations, she was slightly weaker than Lila Gage. Seems like the fake isn't an ordinary magic item. Leave it and you can go, Lila Gage said confidently. He had the real item and was clearly stronger than the other party. He couldn't think of a reason to lose. That depends on whether you have the ability or not. Go See's mind raced as she tried to think of a way to escape from Lila Gage. At the same time, she cursed Frigga for being a scammer. This was completely different from the plan they had agreed on. Don't complain. It's my mistake. I'll take care of your current situation. Whoosh! Suddenly, a beam of light shone from the fake Crimson Star. A hole appeared behind Go See. Go See answered and disappeared into the hole. Rhine, Lila Gage. The next moment, Go See appeared in the wilderness 100 kilometers away. Damn it, what did you do? I saved you, of course. Is there a problem? Of course it's not a problem, but where's my friend, Rhine? Did you forget about her? I can't do anything about that. After all, my magic can only work on you, but you can think of a way to save her. Chapter 3007. Go See felt that she had been scammed. He went with a solemn vow, and then fled in a sorry state. Okay, it wasn't a feeling. This was the truth. He was completely tricked by Frigga. He had clearly said that he would show off his strength. Then, the other party expressed his admiration and made a deal. Why didn't he complete the transaction and even lost a lackey? Rhine looked at Lila Gavik with watery eyes. Of course, she knew Lila Gage. She also felt that she had been cheated. No, it wasn't a feeling. He wondered if begging for mercy would work. Lila Gavik looked at Rhine with malicious intent. You're thinking, does begging work? Rhine nodded silently. Wait a minute. That's not right. How did you know what I was thinking? You're wondering why I know what you're thinking? Rhine nodded silently. Wait a minute. No. How did you know what I was thinking? Hee hee. What a cute little girl. Tell me, why did you come here? Why did you come with that girl and leave you here? Lila Gavich looked at Rhine. Does she think that I've been alone for decades, so she's sending me warmth? Rhine shuddered, feeling that he was about to be violated in some way. All right, don't be afraid. Have you had dinner? Lila Gavich put his hand on RHY's shoulder. You're not planning to triple X me, are you? What the fuck are kids nowadays so open-minded? I feel like I can't keep up. In the face of Lila Gavich, Rhine could do nothing but tremble. Forget it. It seems like you don't know anything. Have you eaten yet? Right now, Go See was thinking about the current situation. She needed help. Otherwise, she wouldn't be a match for Lila Gavik. Not to mention that the other party had a divine artifact. Find a lot to? No, I can't let him know that the Star of Scarlet is in Lila Gavik's hands. But apart from Delatu, there didn't seem to be any good choice. Although the Shuashan clan wasn't considered weak, they didn't have any particularly outstanding people. As for Delatour, he wasn't weak. Moreover, many people from the Dark Shadow clan had come this time. Delatour himself was also very scheming. To go see, he had always been a huge threat. Goth thought of the supernatural organization, the most powerful force in the Los Angeles area. Go see suddenly had a thought. Why would the president of the Supernatural Association send information about the Scarlet Star to Delatour? That's right. It's because the Supernatural Organization and the Dark Elves are in the Los Angeles area. There must be a conflict of interest between them. Thus, he revealed this news in order to get Deladle to cause trouble for the Dark Elven clan. In other words, the Supernatural Organization and the Dark Elves were enemies. This was a good piece of news. It would be best if they could cause a conflict between the Supernatural Organization and the Dark Elves. The Supernatural Organization definitely knew about the Dark Elves' power in L.A. However, they still controlled Los Angeles. This meant that the Supernatural Organization was definitely stronger than the Dark Elves. However, it was impossible for them to achieve a complete victory, so they had always tacitly acknowledged the existence of the Dark Elven clan. If the Supernatural Organization intervened, it was likely that both sides would suffer great losses or even perish together. This was actually beneficial to her. But how was he going to cause a conflict between the Supernatural Organization and the Dark Elves? This was a very big problem. After pondering for a long time, Go-See suddenly thought of a solution. She would find Deladle and have him attack the president of the Supernatural Organization. Of course, if she could kill the president, the Supernatural Organization and the Dark Elves would go to war. This was also the best situation. Only by fishing in troubled waters would she have a chance to save Rhine and even obtain the Crimson Star. Yes, that's right. Go-See had originally thought of letting Delatour smash his head against the wall and bleed. Now it seemed that she had to get involved. Not for anything else, but to muddy the waters. Okay, she would do just that. Go-See immediately took out her phone. Deladle, it's me. How is it? Have you thought it through? What's your plan? I've already found out who that person is. I even know where his house is. Are you going to break into his house? That's not a good idea. A spiritualist would definitely have set up a lot of defenses to protect the safety of his home. Also, the other party was the boss of an organization, so his strength was obvious. If they rashly broke into his territory and fought him, they wouldn't even know how they died. If that was Deladle's only plan, then this cooperation could be terminated right now. Of course not. I'm not stupid, Deladle said in a disdainful tone. Was this woman out of her mind? How could she ask such a childish question? What I mean is do it on the path he has to take. Also, I happen to have something good that can come in handy when the time comes. What is it? As partners, you should at least show some sincerity. After hesitating for a while, Deladle finally said, Magic Forbidding Field. Go-See gasped. Magic Forbidding Field. You wanted to use it against me? Yes. Deladle didn't deny it anymore. It was the truth. Besides, it didn't matter whether he admitted it or not. Even if he said no, would Go-See really believe him? Where did it come from? This time, Deladle didn't answer so readily. Go-See was even more cautious. Fortunately, Deladle was using the Magic Forbidding Field against the chairman of the Supernatural Organization. Otherwise, he would really fail miserably in an easy task without knowing it. Don't worry, it's just the Magic Forbidding Field. That kind of thing is only useful against some weaklings. It's meaningless against the strong. What about me? I'm not a strong person. Although Go-See thought she was very strong, she really didn't dare to say that she could still release magic in the Magic Forbidding Field. Don't you have me? Frigg said. The so-called Magic Forbidding Field just seals off the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, so it can't recover magic power or release magic. However, I can use your hand and magic power to release magic power. Can I do it myself? If you can learn what I've taught you today, you can. However, there's still a long way to go before you can truly be immune. What if the chairman of the Supernatural Organization is also immune to the Magic Forbidding Field? There are only one or two such powerhouses in an era, and there might not even be one in an era. Some eras even have a gap of hundreds of years, so the chances of you meeting such an existence are very low. If you really meet such a powerhouse, there's no need to do anything. Just wait for death. Chapter 3008. Hearing Frigga's words, Ghost C was relieved. Her luck had always been good. Besides, how could there be such a top expert in North America? Lila Gavich was almost at the top. Thus, she could be sure that the president of the supernatural organization wouldn't threaten them. At least, not in the anti-magic field. That was good. Delatour definitely felt that she would also be restricted in the anti-magic field. Little did she know that with Frigga's help, she didn't have to be afraid of Delatour at all. Can you make this anti-magic field? Yes, but with you alone and without any tools, it's impossible to complete it. Is it difficult to make the anti-magic field? Your first priority now isn't to make the anti-magic field, right? Okay, there was no rush. The most important task now was to get the Crimson Star and save Rhine. After the Dark Shadow clan left the supernatural organization's headquarters, they began to investigate the supernatural organization. But in the beginning, they only investigated some trivial matters. And the information they had was all strange. The strange thing was that the supernatural organization in the intelligence seemed very weak. It was as if the supernatural organization that caught them and the supernatural organization in the intelligence were two completely different things. Soon they guessed right. This was a smokescreen deliberately released by the supernatural organization. Actually, this wasn't hard to guess at all. To be able to wipe out their entire team alone, it wasn't the boss. With this combat power, those who said that the supernatural organization was weak were all idiots. Thus, they had to be more careful when dealing with the president of the supernatural organization. Indeed, the president's subordinates could crush them in terms of combat power. However, not everything in this world was determined by one's combat prowess. For example, the anti-magic field was a very important factor. This time, he brought the anti-magic field out just in case. Delatour, are you sure our plan will work? Don't worry. The Blood Elf clan is more anxious than us, so she'll definitely take the bait. But no matter how stupid Ghost C is, she knows the danger of the anti-magic field in our hands. Our cooperation is so risky for her. But she has no choice, Delatour said with a smile. Delatour smiled and said, and she doesn't know that our target is the fake Crimson Star in her hand. From the beginning to the end, the Latu had long known that the Crimson Star at the auction was fake. Therefore, this cooperation did not exist from beginning to end. In the beginning, Delatour had planned to tell Ghost C the truth if he couldn't snatch it by force. Then, he would pay a price to get the imposter from her. However, the plan was ruined by the supernatural organization. What surprised him even more was that the president of the supernatural organization had given him information about the real Scarlet Star. Therefore, Delatour wanted to use this information to lure Goth into the trap. If he could obtain the real Star of Scarlet along the way, that would be a pleasant surprise. Although their original goal was not the real Crimson Star. However, it was still a divine artifact. If they really had the chance to obtain it, they wouldn't mind. Therefore, they came up with a plan to kill two birds with one stone. He wanted to use information about the real Scarlet Star to lure Ghost C into his trap. He had to kill both Ghost C and the president of the supernatural organization and take away the fake Scarlet Star. Then, he would get information on the real Scarlet Star. Of course, they had a backup plan. If Goth C didn't take the bait, they would do it themselves. After obtaining information about the real Scarlet Star, they would get the real divine artifact and then make a deal with Goth C. No matter what, the initiative was in his hands. It had to be said that the supernatural organization and their president hid very well. If they hadn't known their identity beforehand, it wouldn't have been so easy to investigate his identity. However, after knowing his identity as the president of the supernatural organization, it would be much easier to investigate his identity as a normal person. Delatour, why do you think the leader wants us to take it back, even though he knows it's fake? How would I know? Delatour rolled his eyes. He couldn't figure it out himself. However, there was no need to dwell on it now. Whether it was real or fake, he would bring it back. Those old guys would definitely go crazy with joy. Apart from showing his sincerity, Delatour told Goth C about his trump card to increase her confidence. After all, they were all of the younger generation and definitely wouldn't be enough to deal with an expert. Without sufficient strength, it would be no different from courting death. Of course, if he told Gothsea in advance, she would definitely be prepared. She would make some preparations for the anti-magic field. However, it was unlikely that she wouldn't come. After all, the Star of Scarlet was too important to the Blood Elves. Stephen, you've earned a lot this time. At the moment, Chun Zhao was sunbathing and drinking red wine with Stephen and Rasfa. This time, Chun Zhao had helped him a little too. An item was already worth a few $100,000. Stephen's face was glowing. Even he didn't expect it. An unknown red crystal had actually been sold for $240 million. Even Rasfa was green with envy. He even wondered if Stephen had hired someone to buy it. However, he quickly dismissed the thought. As long as Stephen wasn't stupid, he wouldn't pay tens of millions of dollars in taxes for an empty title. I want to auction my collection now, Rasfa said. Rasfa said, I'm not asking for much. As long as there's an item worth $100 million, that's enough. Chun, do you want to take some of my collection? The art market has been really popular these days because of Stephen's auction. Rich people collected art or antiques, not because they loved art, but because they wanted to invest. As for Chun Zhao, he wasn't interested at all. Chun Zhao knew why the red crystal had been sold for such a high price. The art market without a foundation would cool down sooner or later, unless a divine artifact would appear every few days. Otherwise, even the gods wouldn't be able to save the art market. I think I'll pass, Chun Zhao said. As for the two of you, I suggest you sell your collections while the market's hot. It was already a lottery win for a divine artifact to appear in Stephen's collection, and it was a fake one at that. The chances of winning twice in a row were too low. It could even be said to be impossible. Chapter 3009. While Chun Zhao was gathering with Stephen and Rasfa, Chun Zhao's phone rang. Glancing at the caller, Chun Zhao said to the two, I'll take this. President, I have something to report to you. What is it? Remember the elves you let go 2 nights ago? Yes. What do they do now? They didn't cause any trouble. At least, they haven't caused any trouble yet. Wes paused and said, It's just that those people bought a batch of wet demon star powder. What is this thing used for? Is it the material for a large-scale killing spell? It's not used to kill. I heard from Ruan Faxben that this wet devil star powder is used to create a temporary anti-magic domain. Oh, it's probably used to kill and rob people, Chun Zhao said casually. Ignore them. As long as they don't cause any trouble, they could do whatever they want. Chun Zhao thought for a moment and added, Our people have to be careful too. If they're using it for revenge, the anti-magic field is still a threat. If you find out that they're targeting us, contact me immediately. Don't do it like last time. Got it, President. Wesson dared to think that he could do it anymore. Last time, a woman had almost wiped out the top fighting force of the supernatural organization. West finally understood where the supernatural organization's limits were. If Chun Zhao was here, the organization had no limits. They could easily destroy a 1,000-year-old family. But without Chun Zhao, the supernatural organization would at most be a second-rate force. So, West didn't bother anymore. It was enough to know the location. Now, the organization had money, manpower, and resources. It was just a matter of time. They didn't have enough resources. They needed enough time to turn resources into power. The supernatural organization's power was increasing very quickly. At least, it was faster than normal forces. Then arrange for a few foreign organizations and forces to have friendly exchanges. This was pretty much the future direction of the supernatural organization. Simply put, it was to grow wretchedly. As for the wet demon star powder that the Shadow Elves had bought, even if it was really used to deal with the supernatural organization, it wasn't a big threat. Of course, it shouldn't be that serious. It seemed that the Shadow Elves were quite smart. He didn't seem like someone who would do something stupid. Therefore, it was necessary to take precautions, but there was no need to be paranoid. Should I call the Shadow Elves and warn them? Forget it. I'll let them finish the fight quickly and get out of Los Angeles. He hoped that they would be more obedient this time and not cause the TV station to take action again. Chun Zhao hung up and returned to Stephen and Rasfa. Stephen, where exactly do you need money? If you really need money, Chun and I have a lot of cash. In fact, Rasfa was the same as Stephen. They were both billionaires, but their cash wasn't even enough for Chun Zhao's daily income. However, Rasfa could borrow money. Both private loans and banks were willing to lend him money. This was the advantage of a credit system. The rich would never lack money. There's no need for that. I was worried that it wouldn't be enough, so I was prepared to borrow some from you. However, after the ruby crystal was auctioned off for a sky-high price, I don't have to worry about that anymore. All right. Speaking of which, did you make any investments? Or to repay the loan? All right, stop asking. Stephen clearly didn't want to continue this topic, so he decisively interrupted the two of them. All right, call us anytime if you need help. Chun Zhao and Rasfa didn't plan on asking anymore. Because he had drunk, Stephen had famished drive Chun Zhao back. Of course, that bit of alcohol was like plain water to Chun Zhao. However, it was basic not to drive after drinking. Famtis, how's Evan recently? Famtis hesitated, as if thinking about something. I'm not sure if he's good or bad. What's wrong? Did something happen to him? He's been eating a bit too much recently, Famtis said. Also, he seems to be going through his second puberty. It's good to be able to eat. Second puberty is normal too. Felines have a certain chance of going through a second puberty. But if you're free, I hope you can come visit me. I didn't know that felines could go through a second puberty, but I'm sure that Evan's second puberty is abnormal. Are you sure? All right, I'll go visit when I'm free. Oh, where's that? Why is it so bright? Famtis pointed at the light on the road ahead. It wasn't her first time driving for Chun Zhao. She was very familiar with this road. However, she didn't remember such a strange road. Chun Zhao was also confused. Strange, he couldn't sense anything with his domain either. The moment the car entered the bright road, a fireball smashed toward them. Boom! Amidst the flames, Chun Zhao carried Famtis and left the wrecked sports car. What happened? Famtis's face was pale. After all, she was an experienced former mercenary. However, she felt death in the explosion just now. If Chun Zhao wasn't beside her, she really would have died. It's nothing. It's just a normal assassination. Chun Zhao shrugged. It's just a pity about my car. 2 sports cars were wrecked in less than 2 months. I bought the full-color series, and now 3 of them have been wrecked. At this rate, the full-color series won't last past the year. Chun Zhao scratched his head. Do you think I should find a car manufacturer to customize an indestructible car, like Washington 1? Chun, is it a normal thing for you to be blasted into the sky in a car? Actually, it's not that many, Chun Zhao said helplessly. Including this time, it's 2 in total, and they're all concentrated in these 2 months. We don't have any weapons now. Are you sure it's okay? Famtis looked at the figures appearing on the 2 sides of the road. He was ready to fight at any time. Don't worry. No matter what happens, you'll be fine as long as you stand behind me. President of the supernatural organization, you look really confident. Delatour walked out of the darkness. Chun Zhao looked at Delatour and then at the shadow elves around him. Did you forget what I told you the day before yesterday? Or did my words cause you to misunderstand something? Just then, a beam of fire descended from the sky. Gosi descended with a red crystal. Gosi was about to speak when Frigg suddenly said, "Escape." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.